Welcome back to Escaping Kasterborous, the podcast where we rewatch, reminisce, and review everything Doctor Who from 2005 to present. My name is Rich. I am joined by my wife, Amy.
Your actual wife.
Hudson. Ooh, that's grim. Don't like
grim,
that at all.
It's grim.
I know, absolutely horrible. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome back. Well, I say, well, yeah, welcome back to all of us, really. I mean, we're back on it. I mean, because Amy and I don't use Discord in any other capacity apart from recording, the last time we actually recorded was July the 2nd. That's crazy. And today is November 19th.
Oof.
Yeah. A lot has happened in the last 6 or 5 months since we last recorded.
Yeah.
And that is quite literally why we're here today, because I put out a tweet a couple of weeks ago over on @Kasterpod asking whether you'd like us to jump straight back in with the Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky, which is what's next in Series 4. Or whether you'd like a good old gossip, get your tea, slurp, slurp, and find out what's been going on in our lives.
Because we've been a little bit hesitant to share.
I didn't go. So obviously, I'm assuming most of you saw it because the view count on the video version on YouTube had about the same viewership as every other episode of the podcast. I did like a very quick, a few minutes, just to say, look, we need to go away for a bit. Obviously, we are the world's #1 sporadic podcast, but we were very, very clear. And said, we need to go away for a bit because there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives. I wasn't going to go into loads of detail right there and then. It was not the place nor the time. Just wanted to get it done and out the way. And as of now, it is done and out the way. And that's why, in the sake of clarity and transparency, I said this before. I think I don't know if I said it on that update.
I think
or
it
I
might
have
have been on
mentioned
the
it before,
update video, something
where
like
I've said that I really appreciate the idea of full transparency with the viewership, with your audience, about what's going on and why things aren't happening. It was one of my biggest gripes when I worked at What Culture, was the fact that things would just change and we were never given the green light from management to actually make it known that things were going to change. Chatty Faces went dead for a while. I think it was while I was still there, and then it didn't really come back for like a year. But there was never any kind of clarification or actually mentioning the fact that it's like, by the way, guys, we need to make this known. Even when people left the company, they didn't actually ever say,
acknowledge
by
that.
the way, they're gone. Jules made a very, very big effort to make sure that was the case for me and for Osley and for James. So that's changed. But yeah, anyway. So we are here today. We're not to talk about Doctor Who specifically, but to talk about us. To talk about Mr. and Mrs. Hudson.
Life.
Gross.
Grim.
Absolutely
I still can't get used to it.
I know, it's weird. I'm going to keep saying it.
6 weeks now, 7 weeks since we got married.
6 weeks. 5 weeks.
6 weeks.
5
hang
weeks.
On, let me count.
It was the 11th. It was the 11th of October. It's now the 19th of November, so just over 5 weeks.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5.5, nearly 6 weeks.
Yes. So yeah, we have been a married couple for the last 5 weeks, and we will get to the wedding and we will talk to you about it. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll get a few pictures as well. So if you're listening to this, please continue to listen if you're on Spotify or whatever, wherever you get your podcasts. But if you want to see a few pictures, if you're not already following either myself or Amy on Instagram, you'll see them on YouTube as well. But we're gonna get to the wedding and discuss that a bit later on. First of all, we need to get the good soup, the good tea, the good goss.
The good tea.
First.
Although when we lived it, it was the horrible tea.
Horrible tea. It was it was a travesty.
That was terrible.
I know, that was bad. Welcome back, everybody. Kasterpod's back, baby. It was a rough time, and I alluded to it when I did the update, and I have, if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen my rants before. So the best place to start when it comes to 2023 and what happened is to go back to January. So as said in the update, we came into 2023 ready to rock and roll with Kasterpod and going, yep, we're going to do this. We booked it in the calendar every 3 weeks at least.
Yeah.
If we found time to do it extra, we'd just jump in and get episodes recorded and then still release them more evenly spread. So if we ended up like ahead of it all, then brilliant. And we genuinely did come in with that want to do it properly.
And we did it for a while.
Well, yeah.
I don't know how long it was that we did it for, but we did it for a short period of time.
Yeah. And then, you know, we were like, oh yeah, we're getting married in October. And if anybody's ever planned a wedding, that's busy. It's a lot of work, especially for your wife-to-be, who absolutely smashed it, I will say.
Yeah. I would just like to give myself some credit, because as much as like I'm not a big-headed person at all, I would be the first person to be like, oh no, it wasn't just me, like it's not this, it's not that. But when it came to the wedding, like I practically did most of it.
It was Amy.
And I'd say 80% of it was me.
I did what I was told when I was told.
And yes, I probably should have made more of an effort to be like, Rich, you need to do stuff now. But I'm also very much that kind of person that is, hey, if you want something done, your husband's not going to do it for you.
If you want to do it right, do it yourself. I agree. I'm the same. And that's why Amy did it, because Amy is fundamentally better than me at doing. You're better at being me than I am being me. She's better at that sort of stuff than I am. So like I said, I did what I was told when I was told. There were still things I did myself, which we'll get to. But yeah, so the wedding, when that started to spin up, obviously for the last sorts of 2 months, I think it was kind of like 2 months before we were like absolutely really on top of it, and then we just kind of waited for like the weekend before
so the way it kind of
things moving,
the way it kind of played out was that we had, when we got engaged, which was October 2021, it was like immediately off the ground, because we knew exactly how long we had to save, we knew exactly what we wanted to do and how big we wanted to go with this thing. And it wasn't like a huge wedding, but it was definitely big enough that we felt like it did our desires justice. You know, we basically had a big party, which was fantastic. But so it was very heavy on the ground to start with. So it was all booking the venue, booking the registrar, booking all that kind of like stuff that you have to be able to get married. Photographer, videographer, we got those straight out the gate because we wanted them booked. And shout out to the photographer and the videographer, by the way. So our photographer was Daniel Ackley Photography. He's UK based, and I think he's from Peterborough, but he operates all over the UK. He might be from Cambridge. I'm not sure, but he's Midlands. But he operates all over the UK, and he is an absolutely fantastic guy. He's so down to earth, funny.
We will
he
get
just
to
gets
all
on
of
with
that.
it.
Yeah,
and Mark, our videographer, Mark Asplin, is just amazing as well. But anyway, so we booked all of that good stuff. And then you kind of hit a point where you're like, right, can't really do much now except just kind of like do little bits in between, like make decisions on stuff you want to do in future. So we went through these kind of like really busy and then really low troughs, and it was... Which is why when it came to 2023, at the start of the year, we thought, hey, we've got time to kind of put Kasterpod back on the table and really kick off with it. But as it edges ever closer to the time... We get more. The thing is, we knew that the wedding would start taking precedent. Yeah. But then what we're going to move on to now is what then got in the middle of everything else. Mm-hmm. And also, I had, throughout the process, if you're a regular listener, you'll probably know that I went through a few jobs during this time period as well. Like, it sounds like I was constantly hopping from job to job. But when we moved back to Northampton... which was about 6 or 7 months before we got engaged, between that and getting engaged, I'd already worked at like 2 different places. And then in January, I went to go on to another place, and then I went to a different job in the hospital. So I've changed jobs a lot throughout all of this as well, which is, if anybody knows, starting a new job, very stressful. So it was a lot. And this is just to kind of throw in, this is not because of Amy. Well, it is because of Amy's ability in the fact that you are very good at what you do. Yeah, it's not because I got sacked. You're making ground for yourself and moving up the ladder. You weren't just like I'm terrible, I'm getting sacked. Yeah, no, it wasn't because I was bad at my job. It was because I had a job that wasn't right for me, and I thought, no, I want to do more than this. You were genuinely, before you went into the NHS, you were too good for them. Yeah,
100%
and it was
too good for them.
genuinely, my job turned into quote unquote delivery driver, which is not what we want.
Delivery driver / literally like running the business, which is
Yeah,
just
pretty
such a
much.
weird combo.
Which wasn't even my business, so hey ho. But anyway, not the point. So I wanted to move on, and I wanted to do something better, and now I do something better, and we will get to that obviously as the timeline evolves, because we're going to literally start at the beginning
we've
of the year.
technically we've not even technically in 2023 yet, but yeah, so
we start at the beginning of the year and move our way forward.
A lot. Amy's just punching
my
a microphone.
Sorry.
Oh dear, absolutely. You can tell we've not been at it for a while.
Chaos.
Yeah. So January 2023. Leading up to this point, it's been made abundantly clear. I think we might have mentioned it just kind of in passing on the podcast, and I've definitely said it on Twitter. We lived in a rented property. It was the only place we looked at when we moved down to Northampton. We didn't have much time, and because when we moved it was early 2021, the pandemic was still very much in full swing. So finding places to live, we kind of didn't have much. Didn't have much choice, but there wasn't much going. Though beneficially, the house we moved into, like on paper, and really when we were there, it was like, this house is great. It was a lovely house. It's a lovely area. Nice and, I would say, quiet. In every other regard, yes. But the main issue that we had was with our neighbour. And now that this has been and gone, we've been in this house for, about 2 months now?
No, not 2 months yet. We moved in to this current house on the 21st of September 2023. So the house that we are nearly 2 months. So the house that we are in now, as recording this, is not that same house.
No, we have bought a house.
Yes.
We've moved away. It's lovely. It's so nice. We're finally getting things underway and actually feeling like the chaos of moving is starting to die down, but we'll get again. We can get to that a bit later. But yeah, so we had this. We moved into this house. It's where Kasterpod came back. We restarted Kasterpod at our house in Northampton, and then as the time went on, we were having more and more issues with our neighbour, who we were in a row of 4 terraced houses, and ourselves and this particular neighbour, we were the middle two.
So this was our direct next door neighbour.
Yeah, and she had a penchant for throwing parties in her property from
a particular proclivity for parties.
She liked throwing these parties from. The thing that made it annoying was the fact that they always started so incredibly late, and I'm talking like 11 o'clock, 11:30 is when people would start turning up to these things, and they would go on.
Sometimes it would be midnight,
3,
1 o'clock, you know.
Yeah. And these houses were built in the 80s, so the walls aren't very thick, and we had to deal with so much ruckus from them, so that we came to the evenings. It reached a point in sort of the spring when we were struggling to sleep because of the noise that was there when it was there. But the thing that really hit us down the most was the fact that going to bed, and this could happen on any night of the week, I might add. It's not just the weekends. Literally any night of the week, we could hear the front door slam at 11:30 and we go, oh, for God's sake, here we go again. It reached the point where I would be in a perpetual state of anxiety. I could barely sleep because I was lying in bed, just anticipating, just waiting to get that inevitable. Like, if anything, sometimes when it did happen, it actually was almost a relief, because at least then I'm not
then at least
kind of in the mindset of, is this going to happen now? But it got to the point where we were both struggling a lot, mentally, with physically as well, because we weren't sleeping,
and
but
we'd
mentally
had to
because we'd just had to deal with this nonsense.
And
but
it was by this point it was 2 years of nonsense. It wasn't
2 years
even...
of it, and it's not even like we hadn't put feelers out with our neighbour, because we had. We're not bad people. We're not bad neighbours. We're very, very we're quiet people. We don't like kicking up big stinks. We don't get into spats with people or anything. We're just not like that. We don't. While I love the goss, I love the tea, I'm not going to be out there trying to make drama. We're just not that kind of people.
I can't be bothered, to be honest.
No, I know. I just can't. I can't be bothered with it. But so we'd have points over the course of those first 2 years where we'd go knock on her door at 1 a.m. and say, will you shut up? And she'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. And obviously
always drunk, obviously.
Obviously, always very drunk. Obviously, she wouldn't.
No.
And then when it came to January specifically, leading up to that point, because we were in contact with the council, with environmental health, to be like, look, this woman's a nuisance. It's a noise nuisance. It's a noise disturbance. Please help us, basically. And the council, shout out West Northamptonshire Council, just didn't care. Didn't care.
Not at all.
Not a care in the world. We had like an app we'd send recordings through, and they would go, no, can't hear it. No, not
Good old
enough, really.
Russell. If anybody has to deal with Russell at Northampton Council, good fucking luck.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, absolutely no help. But the worst part was, leading up to the end of 2022 and coming into 2023, it felt like we were being led on by the council, that it felt like they were about to do something. So when it came to us having to re-sign our contract for like April, which I've kicked off in January, to say, hey, are you going to sign on for another year? We were thinking, you know what? She's about to get a bollocking. So yes, I think we'll be okay.
But also
Mistake.
it wasn't so much that we wanted to actively sort of, it wasn't so much that we were thinking purely based on her actions that we would be able to be there for another year. It, at the time, we also were like, we're getting married in October, like we haven't really got an option to move before we get married because we haven't really got the money for a deposit on the house at the moment, and we can't afford to move anywhere just to rent for what might only be like another year. Like, why would we do that?
Doesn't seem worth it. Yeah.
Doesn't seem worth it. So we were just kind of like, if we get through the wedding and then we get to the other side of October, then we've got 6 months left on our contract to be able to like look at potentially buying a house, see where we are financially, and kind of it was just the best option for us. And although we were, like Rich said, we were kind of in leagues with the council at this point, thinking, oh God, we're nearly there. They're going to do something. It's fine. It all went to crap.
Yeah. So I think it was not long after we signed the tenancy for another year, I guess Amy said, because it would then accommodate for the wedding. And it was like 2024 is the year we buy a house. That was always the plan. Literally a matter of days after we signed that contract, the council came back and said, yeah, we're not doing anything. Basically a massive screw you, middle fingers and everything. It was just like, really? Thanks. That's wonderful. All
and
the
their
evidence
excuse,
we said, like, what was, sorry, their excuse?
No, it's okay. I was going to say, because at the time when it was viable enough to be a reportable incident, it was, oh, sorry, it's not frequent enough. And then at this point, when it was happening literally once, twice, 3 times a week, it was, oh, sorry, it's not loud enough. It's like, I'm sorry, what the hell do you want from us?
Yeah, sorry. Like, are you genuinely just not going to help us? We'd been in league with their like letting agents and landlord, and they also didn't do anything.
They couldn't.
So yeah, that was a really big blow for us back in like really early into the year, and then in January, as we get to about mid-January, one weekend, I say 1 week, it was a Friday and a Saturday, technically into a Sunday. She decided to do 2 nights, 2 very loud nights on the bounce on a Friday and a Saturday.
Yeah.
Friday night there were her kids there, as well as I assume some other kids, and there was an adult playing upstairs with them at like 11:45, being immensely loud.
Yeah,
like,
who knows?
Rah! And the kids are screaming and running around, and there's all the adults downstairs getting really drunk and being really loud. And it's like,
I don't know how to explain
night.
to you how thin these walls are. Like,
we
can
hear
literally, when we're in bed, if she was downstairs in her living room or her kitchen, which was at the back of the house, bearing in mind our bedroom was at the front of the house, we could hear their conversation as if they were in the next room. Like, they were thin ass walls.
It was really bad. So we kind of gritted our teeth and got through it on the Friday night. And then on the Saturday night, Amy went out to see a friend. I was at home. I was sat watching a documentary about 3 Mile Island on Netflix. And then it was kind of like, it got to again 11:30 kind of time, and it was like, and there they go again, 2 nights on the bounce, fan flipping tastic. So Amy gets home at like 1:45.
Wasn't late. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was still up because I don't really sleep when Amy's out and not home, but he's coming home. So I was still kind of on this. Amy got home and I was literally just sat on the sofa, TV off, just fizzing. I was absolutely livid that we were having to deal with this again. So obviously, I wasn't going to go knock on her door by myself because, as a bit of an addendum to her character and the company she likes to keep, not to sound snobby,
No.
but they're not the kind of people I would hang around.
But
And it's
also,
kinda like,
not even so much that.
I would fear for my safety
Yeah.
if I was going and knocking on the door by myself.
Yeah, and that was more the point.
And just to kind of tease you, I was very right to think that. Mm-hmm. Because that night we went to the door, and the council, because we'd been in conversation with them, even though they'd obviously killed off our case, they were like, you need to record any interactions you have with your neighbour, because we still had every right to go and knock on her door and tell her to shut up. So that's what we did. So Amy was stood there filming. I knocked on the door. Another bloke comes to the door because she never came to the door herself. If anyone knocks on her door at 1 a.m, it's never going to be anybody but her neighbours complaining about the noise she's making. So she always sent somebody else to open the door. So another bloke came out and he was like, I don't want to get in trouble with the police or anything. I'm like, dude, I've got nothing against you. You go back inside, have some fun, send out the tenant. I need to speak to her now. So out she comes. She's obviously, pissed as anything. It's mid-January, so
freezing,
we are freezing
absolutely
our tits
freezing.
off. And we then spent the next half an hour going round in circles about all these problems. And it's like, look, I don't understand why this is such a problem that you need to shut up, because it's 1 a.m. on a Sunday. We're trying to sleep. We can hear everything you're doing. And she was pulling any excuse out the hat, like, oh, I don't have any friends or family around here. It's like, bollocks, do you? I've seen like your dad or somebody visit all the time. Shut up.
Also, I'm not being funny, but if you didn't have any friends, who the hell comes around to your house all the time?
Well, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But it's just like we went round and round in circles. At the end of last year, I think this is kind of one of the reasons why we thought the council might be on our side, to just very quickly get the story out and out. She had a dog and she left it at home during the day, just all day, left it at home. Her kids didn't care for it. She didn't care for it. Left it at home. At this point, I'd started working at Frontier, so I was working from home every day, and all day it was just howling and howling and howling and howling, absolutely doing my bonds in. Obviously, you report animal stuff to environmental health at the council, they're straight on it. They'll jump on and sort it out.
They have to step in because it's another creature at stake, like.
But not humans. Screw humans, am I right? But Amy and I said to each other, like, what if she's not actually allowed the dog? Because we knew that she was a renter. She didn't own the place. It's like, what if she didn't? And we're like, come on. Surely she's not that stupid to like get a pet when it goes against your tenancy agreement. Oh, she did. The council came and knocked in and they got the dog taken away, which is horrible in terms of just having to give up a dog. That, obviously, Amy loves dogs. I love pets. Like, that's horrible.
We weren't. Our aim was never to get her to give up the dog. Our aim was just to have
slap on the
her
wrists
to
and get the dog trained.
Somebody to say the dog is howling, you need to step in, get the dog trained. But because the council had to get in touch with the letting agent to put this act in place, the letting agent were like, what dog? Her tenancy doesn't allow pets, and obviously then she had to give the dog up. Now, don't get me wrong.
She lied through her teeth to the council.
Yeah, I would be devastated. Like, she was like, oh, I don't have a dog. It's just my friend's dog that I look after. No, it's not. Stop lying. And don't get me wrong, like, I get it, because I would be absolutely devastated if somebody came to me and said, you have to give up your animal. But at the same time, it's also not our fault that she got a dog against the tenancy. And on this night in January, when we were out there having an argument with her at 1:30 a.m, she actually admitted on camera, yeah, all right, I didn't check my tenancy. What of it? I thought I'd just be allowed one. Idiot, but then proceeded to blame us.
Then
proceeded to blame us for the fact that her kids were now devastated that they didn't have a dog anymore.
But you weren't allowed the dog in the first place, and you didn't care for it anyway. You left the poor thing at home all day by itself.
Oh, but the woman I've got it living with now doesn't howl. Yes, it did.
Yeah, somebody came in every day and checked on it. No, they didn't. I was home all day, every day working, and nobody ever came in. Anyway, so that was another bargaining chip she was trying to pull. So we went round and round and round and round and round in circles for half an hour, freezing my absolute bollocks off. I was
to play the
there,
victim.
Like, I was properly like shaking, shivering. I was that cold.
Same.
And then most of her clientele stayed inside, except for one guy who was obviously absolutely off his trolley, drunk and aggressive. Thankfully, in fairness to her and also her friends, they were trying to keep him away, keep him at bay. He kept coming outside, and then when he saw Amy filming, he pulled out his phone. He's like, "Oh, my paedophile watch," and getting his phone right in my face.
Calling me a Karen, because obviously that's the most insulting thing you can say to anybody.
I'm not going to throw him any rope. I just blanked him, completely ignored him, going round and round in circles with our neighbour. And then eventually it got towards the end of the night, end of this conversation. It's like, look, we're not getting anywhere. Go inside, shut up, or we're going to get the police involved. And then matey boy came over to me. He got right up in my face. He started threatening me personally, threatening our property, then assaulted me and went back inside. And it was like, oh, great.
Fantastic.
This is where this is going to go. So we obviously reported this to the police.
Yeah.
Just as a precaution, because while he very much had that kind of, I'm a stereotypical British chav who's all talk and no walk, we didn't know that. So we were worried about whether these guys were going to do something stupid, where they're going to damage our property, where they're going to damage our cars.
Because it's not like they didn't know where we lived.
Well, exactly. So we were kind of worried about that. So eventually, in the end, we got our neighbour's number, and she was like, yo, can you just, if I'm being loud, just tell me. Just text me and tell me to shut up. We did that for the first time after that incident in January. She was quiet. Every single other time since then, nothing. It reached the point where she and her friends would then retaliate to it. And then in March, this was when we finally pulled the trigger and said, you know what? We need to get out of here.
Yeah.
We had a night. She had people over. They were being really loud. We texted her and said, hello, shut up. To which then we heard a big uproar of laughter, because obviously she had read receipts on, so we could see that she'd read the message. There was a big uproar of laughter when obviously she announced, oh, we've annoyed the neighbours again. And then it's like, yeah, we're a bunch of assholes. They then started like hammering on the wall that adjoined our properties, which was like, okay, that's full confirmation. They're acknowledging the fact that we're annoyed. And then in the morning, we found a bag of feces. I would use the fun word, but it's a podcast.
I don't know whether it was...
bag of poo, whether it was animal feces or human feces, we don't know. In our garden, and that's never happened in the 2 and a bit years we'd lived there at that point. So it's like, this can't be a coincidence. But
what I love is that they'd gone through the hassle of putting it in a bag. Like, they were
I thought
that
they just
stupid.
crapped on the lawn. Because it was like a low fence between the houses. They could have easily hopped the fence and literally just took a dump on the lawn.
And the thing is, if they'd done that, I probably would have been like, it could have been a dog, it could have been a cat, it could have been like, I mean, I know human turds a bit bigger than an animal turd.
We know that.
But like, I would have been a bit more like, I mean, at least you went through the effort, but they physically put it in a poo bag and then threw it over the fence. I was like, what was the point?
It's like, and then that morning as well, after we sort of found the poo, our neighbour was messaging Amy asking for our personal information, like, oh, what are your surnames? And we were like,
she was like, oh, what's yours and Richard's
our
surname?
surnames.
Why would we tell you that? Like, are you actually think I'm just going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, it's this?
So we went back to the police again, just like, yeah, this is actually really concerning now, because they're now retaliating to a direct communication that our neighbour put in place, not us. She put that in place. Now there's fecal matter in our garden, and now she's fishing for personal information. How is this okay? So we went to the police. I had a proper chat with an officer about it all.
Yeah.
Just like, bear in mind, throughout all of this, all we had done, just for full clarification for people listening, all we had done is asked her to stop being so loud when we're trying to sleep. That's literally
we'd never
all
been
it is.
aggressive. We've never
been like, you're not allowed to have friends. You need to move out and get kicked out of your house. I want to, eat your dog.
We were reasonable to the point where we said, look, we're happy for you to have people round until 11, but past 11, we would request that you just...
I would like to
because
be
we
able
had
to
to
sleep,
work.
thank you.
Do you know what I mean? Like, even on the weekends...
Amy works for the NHS, for God's sake.
Like, it wasn't even about the weekends being okay because it was a weekend. It was just to the point where it was like happening on a Wednesday, a Tuesday, a Thursday. We had no idea when it was going to happen. And
literally,
it's not even
we had instances any day of the week.
And it's not even so much that I work for the NHS, because regardless if you're turning up to work tired, it's hell. But like, my job is quite stressful, and not to like my new job since the start of this year, because bearing in mind throughout all of this, I started at the NHS in January 2022, and in February 2023, I started in a new position. So I went from being a receptionist to a medical secretary. And if anybody works in the NHS, you'll know it's hella stressful. But being a medical secretary, there's so much reliance on you for your job and your patients and your consultants that if you're not like at your kind of level best most days, it can really have a detrimental effect. And it got like my mental health, like Rich said, was just awful. Like we weren't sleeping, and it was having really, really personal, almost like traumatic kind of PTSD effects on us, to the point where we weren't even able to go home and get ready for bed okay, because we would just be laying there thinking, what the hell is going to happen? And obviously after Rich got assaulted and he was threatening us, we were, for like 2 weeks, I was like, I do not even want to be here. Like, what happens if they throw a brick through our window, or like, damage our cars, or they could have done anything, do you know what I mean? And to be honest, a bag of poo in the garden, like, fair, have it, whatever, like, do that
it's
over and over again.
It's pretty tame to what it could have been, but it's still not okay.
Yeah,
we wouldn't take that as like that's just, we can brush that off because of everything that preceded it. It's like, if anything, you guys are digging yourselves into more of a hole because this is more evidence for the police.
Exactly. And so to have started a new job in all of this as well, because I started this job at the end of February, and it was really difficult learning curve because I was going from a band 2 to a band 4. So it was a lot to take in and a lot of pressure, and we'll get to that also in a bit, but needless to say, it was hard.
Yeah, it was a lot to have to deal with, especially because we were so close to the wedding, because breaking a tenancy agreement is expensive and very, very awkward to have to do. It was like, we really don't want to have to do this. And beneficially, Amy's mum, my mother-in-law, lives kind of only down the road.
Yeah.
And because Amy's old bedroom still has a bed in it, it reached the point there whenever we'd hear like a whisper, we would just grab a go bag and go sleep at Amy's mum's.
We spent more of... when did we move in here? We moved out of that property in...
End of August.
Beginning of the first weekend of September, we moved out of that property.
Right.
Which we'll get to again in a minute.
Yeah.
Because that was a whole saga in and of itself. And we moved in with Mum for 3 weeks, and then we moved in here. So literally until the first week of September, we spent at least 50% of our time probably at Mum's. Like, it was horrendous.
Just because we weren't getting any respite from our neighbour. It was like talking to a bitchy brick wall. And it was just like... the thing that annoyed me the most about it, obviously the fact that we were having to deal with this in the first place was bad enough, but the thing that wound me up the most is the fact that there are people out there who are like this, who are just wired to be a complete and utter C word all the time. I'm like, I just don't... She is the main character syndrome. One of the things that wound me up the most about her is the fact that she never did anything herself. It was taking the bins out, it was her kids. Gardening, it was her kids. There were points when there were people in their garden and they were about to go out. Literally, they'd be about to go out on the town and go out on the piss or something, and she would be asking him to do like, "Oh, can you clean the shed out?" And he's like, "No."
"Oh, can you go do some weeding in the garden?"
Yeah, I'm like, she literally never did. Even when they did have the dog, the kids were walking it and everything. She did nothing, and that boils my blood in and of itself. And then there's just the extra layer of, you are just an awful person to anyone who isn't you. And because, as Amy mentioned earlier about her quote unquote friends, based on the clientele that were rocking up to her house on the regular, always different. There were so many times where people were knocking on our door expecting to come in and get pissed because they knocked on the wrong door, because they didn't know where she lived. Random new people every single time.
And I heard people outside the window going, "Are you sure it's this one?" And they'd be like, no, it's the next one, it's the next one. And it would just be like, how do you not even know where you're going? Like,
she seemed to go through friends so much, either because she would get bored of them or they would realise, wow, you are an entitled sack of crap, and move on. So it was everything about being in that aura of her property, her house, her kids, unfortunately. Just everything sucked. And the fact that I worked from home, I had no escape from that. Just no escape at all, which really, really made those sort of 6, 7, 8, 9 months of this year so goddamn difficult.
Yeah, they were tough.
Every single night I would hit like 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock and go, oh, it's going to be bedtime soon. Time to start the stress again. And hence why I got to the point where Amy and I both decided we looked at our situations financially and went, do you know what? We could make this work. It's going to be tough. It's going to be expensive, but it's not going to be impossible.
Yeah.
So we decided, do you know what? We pulled the trigger. We contacted our letting agents and our landlord and said, yeah, we're out. We've told them everything. We've got this PDF.
We've kept them in the loop.
We kept them in the loop of every incident we actually made any kind of note or video or audio recording of since when we moved in back in April 2021. And we said all of it to the landlord and letting agents and said, look, this is why we need to leave, because we're suffering mentally, we're suffering physically,
and
everything
also
sucks.
To add into that, I have one chronic health condition already, but in the process of this, I also got diagnosed with another one. And guess what's stress related? That. So
yeah, it got pretty damn hard. So hence why we decided we're going to have to try and move this forward. Moving to another rented property didn't make any sense.
No.
Potentially moving in with the mother-in-law did, which obviously, as Amy's already said, we did do that for a few weeks in a bit of a crossover between getting out of our property and completing on this place. I just I personally didn't really want to be living with my mother-in-law when we got married, which
no, it wasn't
weren't.
really feasible for us to be able to do that either.
So we had to start all that process, which obviously was expensive. The landlord was pissed off. You signed a new contract in January. Yes, but we've given you context as to why we want to leave. It's not rocket science to understand that we are at our wits' end at this point.
Yeah.
So we got all of that moving. We found this lovely house that we managed to get, which is amazing because it's such a great house. I love it
lovely.
so much. It's quiet. It's wonderful.
And the best part
is
it's semi-detached, and currently we have no neighbours next door. Hey.
Yep. So going to sleep is like going to sleep again. It's amazing how it's a novelty in our lives. I promise
you, do not ever take going to sleep safely or comfortably for granted.
Don't take it for granted. It's so nice. But even when we were moving out of that place, having to get... Because of the fact that we were breaking tenancy, if it got to the end of our contract, we could just go. But because we were breaking tenancy, the only way that we could fully sign on the dotted line and tell our old letting agents to bugger off is if there was somebody else in the property. And that proved slightly difficult at times. There was a lot of interest, which was great.
For me, that was hell.
Yeah, obviously we weren't going to say, if they asked, oh, how are the neighbours? We'd go, yeah, they've got kids. Yeah, it's fine. We obviously couldn't turn around and go, she's a complete bitch and you shouldn't live here, because that throws us under the bus, which I feel bad about having to do. I feel bad for the poor sods living there now. But we had no choice. Yeah. We had absolutely no choice. We just had to get a new tenant or tenants into that house so we could get out and get the rest of our lives back on track, sleep and become healthy people
and
again.
It was difficult throughout that process because we let them know that we wanted to move. I think it was May, June, sometime around there.
June, yeah.
And they obviously started the process of putting the property up for advertising. We found this place, put an offer in, basically at kind of the same time that they started advertising our other one. And they accepted a tenant, then didn't accept them, then did accept them. And it was very much we had quite a lot of people view it that seemed really interested in it, but then they we didn't hear anything. And it was really stressful because we were so desperate to know that we had that option to be able to move, because then we were obviously going through the process of buying this place. And while a lot of people might be like, oh, why did you put an offer in on somewhere if you knew you weren't going to be able, didn't know you were going to be able to move out of your previous place? And it's we had no choice, because we either had to move in with mum for a very temporary period of time or stay where we were. We couldn't just go nowhere. We couldn't be homeless, do you know what I mean? So we were like, look, if the worst comes to the worst and we end up processing the buy on our property and we buy that and we're still living here, we will try and make it work money-wise. Would have been virtually impossible.
Because we'd have had to be paying for two places at once.
Yeah, and so if you know what mortgage rates are like at the moment, they ain't cheap.
And we're not exactly minted. So,
we get by. So we were kind of like, we can't really afford to do that, so we desperately need to get somebody in. And they had loads and loads of viewings over the course of a few weeks, and then they just went quiet on us, and then we were like, what the hell's happened?
So I was ringing up the letting agents, like,
because by this point I was so stressed with everything to try and keep planning the wedding, because we're still trying to plan a wedding in all of this.
And this obviously, because it was middle of the year, the wedding was starting to spin up again, because we were like, we need to start, like, we're having the final payments due, and we had to submit numbers at the start of September, wasn't it? It was middle of September, because it was when we went to Centre Parks.
And so then
everything was spinning up. So I was calling the letting agents like every day, like, what's going on? Are we moving out? Have you got somebody in? And they were just being so obtuse and useless, and it was like,
and
I
obviously,
am stressing now.
We were packing during all of this as well, so we were living in like a half-packed house.
We'd pied off most of our stuff off to the mother-in-law's anyway.
Yeah.
Because she had space to store things that we could just, like, all of the superfluous stuff we don't need, like all of our games and DVDs and stuff like that we don't necessarily need to live on. We got rid of all of that.
It was awful.
Just so we could make the move easy. So we penciled in a weekend and said, hey, we can move this weekend because this will work.
It was the bank holiday weekend in August in the UK, which is the last weekend.
The last one
of
the year. Last one of the year is Christmas.
Yeah.
So we penciled that in and said, hey, we can move. This is going to work out really, really well. It gives you guys loads of notice to get new people in. It's the best weekend for us before the wedding starts spinning up. And so we got to that weekend and it was like, so can we move out? And they were like, no, we haven't got anyone in yet.
Yeah, they just flat out refused to tell us any information.
And then on the Wednesday of the week after, it was like, okay, right, we're good to go. We've got tenants in. That's awesome. We can start that movement. We said, okay. We originally said last weekend because this weekend it's our hen and stag do, and we're very busy. So can we do the weekend after? Because we've kept it all completely clear, like apart from the wedding, apart from the hen do stag do, up until the wedding for anything that might come up. And they were like, no, we need the keys back on Monday.
Yeah, no. So this is my half of the story.
I was going to say, I'll let you do that.
So on the Wednesday, I had rang them because Rich at this point was getting into work stuff and he was really, really busy.
They were starting to avoid me as well.
Yeah,
the
knew
woman who
Rich's
we'd normally
phone
speak
number.
to, every time I rang up, it's like, she's not here. She's taken a dump or something. It's like, yeah, bollocks.
Yeah,
she is just avoiding me now.
And so
that's how
I
fun
rang.
the letting agents were.
So I rang because I was like, look, she ain't going to argue with me. Let me tell you that for a fact. So I rang and I just said, look, we absolutely categorically need to know what's going on because we were due to move out 3 days ago. We have not heard anything and we physically cannot move out this weekend now because we're busy. What the hell do you expect us to do? And that's when they said to us, actually, the landlord has now decided to go forward with this tenant's application because they couldn't really tell us much throughout the process of these tenants applying. All they told us was that somebody had applied for it and then about halfway through the application process, something had flagged on their application with one of their references. So they weren't sure they were going to go forward with it then. So then we were back and forth and they weren't giving us any information because legally they couldn't. And it was like, yeah, but you could still tell us if we're planning on moving. Like, I'm not asking for the bloody tenants' information. I'm not asking to know where they live now.
Yeah, we don't need to know anything about them.
I don't need GDPR. I just need to know if we're okay to move out. And they were like, no, we can't tell you. And then, on the Wednesday I rang them. I was like, look, please tell me what the hell is happening because we were meant to move out 3 days ago. And she said, no, it's fine. The landlord has decided to go through with the application process. So we're literally we've done all their references. We're just waiting on the certificate to be sent through, which should only take a couple of hours. And then you can go. So I went, great. Okay. Let me speak to the people that we need to talk to about when we can move out and we'll organise a date and get back to you. So I said to them, we can't do this weekend because it's our hen do stag do and we will be able to move out on I think it was like the 9th of September or something. And she was like, okay, let me speak to the tenants and then I will get back to you tomorrow and we can firmly set a date. So Thursday rolls round, I ring them first thing in the morning, and I'm like, oh, hi, have you spoken to the tenants yet? And she said, yeah, so because you guys were so urgent in needing to move out, we need you to move out by this weekend so that we can have the keys back and the property ready for the new tenants to move in by Wednesday. Otherwise, we're going to have to re-advertise the property. I was, let me tell you, incensed was not the word, because I could have wrung her neck at this point. I was so unbelievably stressed that I literally could not tell you how difficult it was for me to not swear at her down the phone. So
it was weaponizing our urgency.
Yeah, it was.
It's like, yes, we wanted to get the hell out of there, but we were trying to do it with as much notice as possible and be as transparent as possible. And then they just kind of went, well, you guys are urgent, so get out.
So I said to them, I emailed her because she'd asked me to put it in an email. So I emailed her and I said, look, we can move out this day. What is planned? What is what's happening?
What's the happa-haps? Yeah.
What's the happa-haps? And she said we need the keys back so that the property can be cleared and open by Wednesday so that the tenants can move in. Otherwise, we'll have to re-advertise. Now, that's crap, because let's be honest, if a tenant has got all the way through their application process, all the references, everything has been done, you're not going to suddenly get to 3 days before they're due to move in and go, oh, sorry, we're going to have to re-advertise actually because the new tenants can't move out for another 3 days after you want the property. They wanted to move in by the Wednesday. We could have been out on the Saturday. Do not tell me that couldn't have been arranged for. Do you know what I mean? So I rang my mum. My mum was absolutely furious because we then had to literally get everything emergency sorted. So I emailed the letting agent back and said, okay, we can have the keys back to you on the morning of Wednesday the 6th. And she said, no, you don't understand. We need the tenants in by Wednesday. We need the keys back Monday. I literally, at this point, I was so angry. I literally could not.
Nearly blew your top.
I was crying with anger at this point. So I rang my mum back and she was absolutely raging. And she just went, do you know what? Forget about it. We just need to get you out. So in an emergency state of everything, we managed somehow to...
We had a lot of help.
Me and Rich managed to book the Friday off work each. So we managed to pack the rest of the house on the Friday. And when I say the rest of the house, bearing in mind this was not a small job. It was a 3-bedroom house with a conservatory. It wasn't a big property, but we have a fair amount of stuff.
A lot of stuff, yeah.
And we'd only packed the inconsequential stuff because we were so...
we knew we could get rid of stuff that just to kind of make our lives a little bit easier, and it got to this point.
And we hadn't had
but it was still
time to be packing.
All of the furniture had to go because we had nowhere to put that.
Everything that we were using to cook.
The bed.
Yeah.
Unpack the kitchen and all the stuff that we needed to keep in place. All of my desk, my whole office basically stayed because I needed it to work.
You needed to work. And you'd not believe how much stuff you actually need to be able to live day to day. And so all of that stuff we had been leaving because we were like, we don't know when we're going to be moving, so we can't afford to be packing it and then needing it every day. So we suddenly had to have a day booked off work on the Friday. Thank God both of our managers were completely understanding. And we packed on the Friday, and then we literally had to hire a van from Enterprise and use my mum's partner's van to get our whole house emptied in the space of a day, urgently get a lock-up at a storage unit, and we spent, we spent 12 hours that day just packing. I think they arrived at... No, it wouldn't have been quite 12 hours, but they arrived at 10 and we finished.
We managed to get the house emptied at 4 or 5 o'clock, so it was pretty good going.
No, it wasn't. It was 7. It was 7 o'clock. We were on the way to my mum's with the last load of stuff. So it took us, 9-10 hours.
And then the neighbour was just stood in her window just watching us.
And her kids were going, are you moving? Are you moving?
It was so hard not to just flip her the bird or something every time we saw her in the window. Because obviously we wouldn't want to give her the satisfaction, but if she had said anything, myself, Amy, the mother-in-law, whoever she would have spoken to, we'd have ripped her head off.
I would have, absolutely. And at this point as well, I was also not very well. I was really poorly, so this was just torturous hell time. So we managed to get packed up and out on the Friday. And on the Friday night, we were actually meant to be going out with friends. So we did manage to make it there,
didn't we?
God. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We were late, but we did get there.
Yeah, we were late by about an hour and a half, but we did get there. So we met up with friends. Then on the Saturday, we obviously had our hen do and stag do. Rich went off to Coventry.
I went to Coventry, had a curry.
I took the girls off to a pub, like a bit away from where we live now, which was lovely. It was like a big, afternoon tea, craft afternoon, great fun. And then we had to literally go home, Rich stayed over the night, but came back on the Sunday. But anyway, we then had to go. I went back to my mum's, stayed the night with my girls. And then on the Sunday, we then had to go back and clean the entire house because we literally had to give the keys back on the Monday morning. And we cleaned that house, no word of a lie, to the point where it was probably cleaner than when we moved in.
Yep.
And so that was another 8 hours worth of work, and me, my mum and my sister were absolutely exhausted by the time we'd finished cleaning. Rich came over when he got back from Coventry and helped us do the last few little bits. It was knackering. And then the Monday, we handed the keys back, and I was just like, good bloody riddance to you. I never want to see any of you again. And then Tuesday morning, the letting agents had the audacity to message me and go, the washing machine wasn't cleaned. I was like, don't you dare. Do not dare talk to me right now, because I will rip your head off. Now, luckily...
Obviously, letting agents just trying to do anything they can to get that little bit of money out of you.
We had cleaned the washing machine, so she could have absolutely gone and done one, but she actually had the decency to say, however, we appreciate the state that you left the rest of the property in, so as a goodwill gesture, we won't charge you for it. Oh boy, do not use the term goodwill gesture.
I so want to swear now. She did our bonces in. I despise that woman, and thankfully we don't have to deal with letting agents ever again.
No.
So we've spent the last hour venting our the last sorts of 8 months of frustration, because that's genuinely how it's been. So the idea that we were both able to work, we were able to do Kasterpod when we got the chance to, make YouTube videos for me when I've had the chance to. I look back at that and think, yeah, maybe our output wasn't that great, but hopefully now. We've literally not kept anything on the DL. We've told you everything that happened.
And obviously, like I said, we were still planning a wedding during this period of time. Like, I had no time to stop and think about anything because everything was just go, 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 go. My mental health tanked, let me tell you.
It was good though, when we moved in with the mother-in-law, just getting that it was that moment of, okay, we've escaped. I set up my desk upstairs so I could continue working. Mother-in-law's internet is completely terrible, but I could just about work.
But we made
which was fine. And like being in there, starting work, jumping into my Monday morning meeting and going, oh, we're out. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
The relief.
There was this huge load off our minds. And then it was like, now that we'd done that, at this point, we were kind of waiting for completion on this place. And then, but the most important thing, which we'll swing to now, I think, was the fact that we were at this point a matter of a month, 5 weeks away.
Literally
from
wasn't
the
even
wedding.
that, because I mean, so that
it was a month because we did 3 weeks at your mum's.
Yeah, so we moved in here on the 21st of September.
The first and the third week we were actually there. The week in the middle we actually went away with my family for a week, which was kind of nice to not have to deal with the fact that it was like we're in this weird in between. We kind of got a break in the middle of that, which was lovely. But then we moved in here. We got the basics set up and got things going. I had a right mare with Virgin, which we won't go into because that was just stupid. But then we got to the weekend before the wedding that was when all of the stuff that we were sitting on, because there was a point when we were stood talking and it was like, we've actually done everything we can. There's nothing we can do for the wedding right now that isn't already planned to happen the weekend before. So like all the nitty gritty bits, like putting the confetti cones together, sorting out the boxes for each individual table,
making the signage,
doing the signage and all that sort of thing. We just had to wait and do that, which is like, while there was an element of, I just want to do it because then it's going to be done. It was kind of, again, testament to Amy's organisation and dedication to, I mean, as you would be to your own wedding. But like, we got to that point and it was like, okay, we're actually, amidst all of this stuff that's going on, we're in a really good position. We got into the house, we got the internet working, we moved in, we were there, and it was like, okay, it's wedding time.
Yeah.
So because Amy Amy predominantly, as said, and myself had been really good at keeping on top of everything that wasn't very granular stuff to do the weekend before. We got to the weekend. It was a solid 2 days of just getting everything ready to then go to the venue, drop off all of the stuff into their little sheds, which was they were so organised and so good.
The venue, shout out to the venue as well, like they were so good.
Yeah, they helped us out so much. We dropped everything off there on the Monday, and then the Tuesday was, this is the day before the wedding, the 10th of October, and it's like, right, we've got some bits and pieces to do. I think your mum and sister got their nails done. Obviously, we were here, and it was like, okay, we're gonna let's go through for the next sort of maybe hour. Probably it's gonna be a long one. Just how everything went down for the wedding, which obviously, in case you haven't seen, it was very, very good.
Yeah,
and by very, very good, I mean it was perfect.
Yeah.
So
it definitely, out of everything that has happened this year, the two positives I can glean from 2023 have been we've bought a house and we got married. Because, honest to God, I mean, like Rich said, testament to my bloody planning, because literally I wrote...
You big-headed bitch.
I don't care. I will...
You're allowed to.
I wrote like a 4-page PDF document for my own sake, mainly, planning the entirety of the week leading up to the wedding out so that we knew exactly where we were supposed to be at what time, doing whatever it was, packing stuff, putting stuff, printing stuff, like labeling, whatever we needed, it was all there. And I did send it to the wedding party, not that anybody really read it because they didn't need to, but it was just for my own sake of peace of mind, just knowing what I had to tell people at what point. And to everybody's credit, everybody was so on it and so wonderful leading up to it that they all just kind of went with it. They were like, look, we know it's going to be a stressful time if we don't kind of work with this. And like everyone in our family, everyone in our wedding party just did what they needed to do, did what they wanted to do, but also kind of like, it wasn't like Amy's telling us to do this, let's do this. It was we want to help do this, so let's help. I wasn't a bridezilla by any stretch, do you know what I mean? Like I was actually more relaxed in the lead up to the wedding on the weekend or two before.
I was awful on the wedding day for stress.
Rich was
Amy was
terrible.
Super chill.
I was so relaxed.
Let's rewind a bit to Tuesday then. So we got married on the Wednesday, the 11th of October. So Tuesday, we had a nice chill morning here in our new house. Amy made eggs Benedict, which was amazing.
I did. Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
We went and we rope dropped an Argos. To get Amy some film for her Polaroid camera to take with us to the hotel.
Yeah.
So we had that. And then it was like, okay, our first call is we need to go to Northampton and go and pick up Jules from the train station, who I hadn't seen since the middle of 2020. So it had been over 3 years since I'd last seen Jules. And that was lovely to get to see him, give him a big old hug and just catch up with everything that's been going on. Because obviously he's not at What Culture full time anymore either. He's a Future. So he's everything sort of changed for him, and getting a chance to catch up with him. So I got a good several hours with him on that Tuesday, which was wonderful. Amy went off to the hotel with her family. I was hanging fire with Jules to wait for Scott and his wife because they were staying at our mother-in-law's house.
They stayed at my mum's house because they were
going to stay with us in our old house, but obviously we moved much further away from the venue, so it made more sense for them to stay in Northampton than it was to stay out where we are now. Mm-hmm. So they stayed there, so I got to see them. I spent a couple of hours with them. It was like my sister-in-law's fiance came and picked up the wedding dress. Obviously I had to hide in the corner, so I couldn't, not that I could see it anyway, but not that I would want to see it.
It was a whole military operation to make sure that the dress got out.
This. So he came in. I had a list of things I need to bring. I had to bring, my suit. I had to bring the wedding rings and all that sort of stuff. So I had a good few hours with the What Culture. Just meanwhile, Scott and Jules and Aisha.
We were at the hotel just having a nice time, having a drink and chatting crap in the garden. Yeah,
because the rest, all of our it was our immediate family and our bridesmaids. Who we all congregated together for the night before and the night after at a lovely golf club and spa. for our see, it's your wedding, you go all out, why not? So I came to the hotel and joined all of you lots, and the cool thing about this place is that they have their own private bowling alley. So the night before the wedding, we all went
booked.
bowling.
It was
like
an hour and 15 minutes of private bowling.
We pushed it a bit, but we could
it was
just play
only
as many
supposed
games
to be
as
an
we
hour,
liked.
but it was fine.
With what was it, 18 of us?
Yeah,
So,
16 of us, I think, altogether, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we had a game of bowling. We had a lot of fun, and then we went upstairs and had a really, really nice meal as a massive group. Because I had an amazing steak.
Oh yeah,
what
I had a
did you
burger.
have?
I had a chicken and chorizo burger.
That thing was massive.
It was huge.
The steak and the burger came with the kind of super fat chips where you look at them in a little basket and go, "There's 5 of them. That's so depressing."
They're so
you eat
unassuming.
2 and you go, "Oh god, I can't eat any more chips."
Yeah. And I mean, for starters, we'd had camembert, mini baked camemberts with bread. Oh my god, they were so good.
And then I shared a pudding with my sister.
I shared one with Mum and
I think I was
Laura
like a brownie or something
and
we had.
Haley. I think it was something like that.
Was it sticky toffee?
We had profiteroles.
Oh, you did, didn't you? So the food at this place was amazing. It was really, really nice. It's the kind of place where you can't go onto the website to look at the menu because the menu probably changes so frequently because all the food's so freshly done. Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
We gave out our groomsmen, parents, and bridesmaids gifts.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 people sat at the table who didn't get anything, which
and we felt really bad.
Sorry.
I was kind of I'm sorry, but it's just for
Yeah, I don't have the money to buy you all stuff. And then we went to bed. So all this day I wasn't feeling nervous. I was excited. And then I stayed in a room by myself. Obviously, night before the wedding, you don't stay together. Amy stayed in a room with her. Amy stayed up in the suite with your mum.
Yeah, and then, even though Mum slept on the sofa because she's a plonker.
And then me and my mother-in-law, we swapped, obviously, the night of the wedding. Amy and I in the suite. She was in the room, the normal room I was in. I slept okay. I was up a bit late rehearsing my speech. Had a lovely little corner mirror so I could stand and look at myself from all angles while I recited this speech and was like, yeah, okay, I think I'm happy with this. And then I slept okay. Obviously, the morning.
Oh my god, I was so surprised. I slept I think I didn't go to bed.
Wasn't it really hot in your room?
It was boiling. I mean, bearing in mind it was October and I had to have the windows open, the duvet off. I was sweating. And
there was bugs in my room.
No, great.
Loads of flies.
But so I was so worried that I wasn't going to sleep the night before the wedding. I was so worried I was going to be so stressed. I was chill as anything. I literally don't know how I managed it. I was so relaxed. I think because compared to all the stress we've been through, I was like, there's nothing else I can do. So I think we went to bed about midnight. I think I got to sleep about 1 o'clock. I slept solidly for the 5.5 hours that I was allowed to sleep before I had to be up the next morning for makeup. So yeah, we got up at 5:45 for makeup. That's grim, innit?
That was rough.
But I slept solidly.
So the mother of the bride and all the bridesmaids went to the suite to get ready. So the hairstylist turned up, the makeup artist turned up. Obviously, food got brought up.
Oh god, we had breakfast in the room
from the buffet. Full Englishes and pastries and all sorts. The rest of us all went downstairs because we could. One of my colleagues from Motorsport Games came to do some photographs in the hotel because our photographer and videographer weren't going to be there that early, so he came and helped us out. So thank you, Cameron. He came and had breakfast with us. I couldn't eat, but the thing that threw me off so much is the fact that I didn't feel anything. I just couldn't eat. And sometimes you have the mornings where you think I can't eat as soon as I wake up, and if I'm going to a hotel as hotel breakfast, I'm on it. But obviously that day wasn't the case, so I just sat there. I had a cup of tea. I had my dad, the groomsmen, the partners of our bridesmaids were there happily tucking into they were going for platefuls and platefuls and platefuls of food, and I was there with a cup of tea, just I can't. I'm really excited. I'm super like we're all gassed to be there. It's the day of my wedding, for God's sake. But I'm just like I can't eat anything.
Meanwhile,
I just can't eat anything.
I'm upstairs absolutely stuffing my face because I am absolutely not going through this day and not eating. So I had a full English breakfast and 2 croissants. And then I think I also had some cocktail sausages out of the snack bag.
Oh my goodness. And then when it came to like, okay, we're gonna go and start getting ready, because we were leaving at what, 11:15, I think our bus was, or 11 o'clock.
Our bus was booked for 10:30, and the boys' bus was booked for 11. So
yes, that was it. Just so we arrived separately, so we didn't see each other. But I then went back up to my room, and I was going to get ready with my dad, my best man, who is also my brother, and my other groomsman, who is my sister's boyfriend. So we were going to get ready together in my
Cameron's
sister's room, because they had quite a big room. So we got ready up there. But there's a point when my brother and my other groomsman went to Tesco to get some like bottles of water and some bits and pieces. So I was just sitting in my room by myself, just like, are you guys back? I want to get ready. It's the morning of my wedding. I'm just sitting here doing nothing in my t-shirt and jeans I went down for breakfast in. I need to do something.
We were hella busy upstairs.
I was there picking away so slowly at a dry little box of Frosties you get on breakfast buffets.
Oh no.
That's literally all I ate that whole morning, because that's all I could eat. I wasn't nervous, I wasn't scared, I just couldn't eat anything. And
God.
it was I'd anticipated that would be the case, but I didn't think I wouldn't stomach anything.
Yeah.
I just couldn't feel like eating. It's like if I had a bite of a sausage, I'd probably immediately feel really full and bloated and sick and horrible. But the thing is, and obviously it will be the case for your own wedding, but I've always had bad appetites at weddings. Whether obviously I say whether they're mine or not, but like I obviously had a bad appetite at my wedding, and I've had bad appetites at the weddings I've been to in recent memory. So it's like it's just a wedding thing, but obviously amplified by the fact that this was our own. But we eventually got ready. Amy got ready with the girls, went over to the venue, and so our venue, which is Dodford Manor, just outside of Northampton, we didn't look anywhere else. We went there.
It was
and went,
beautiful.
Yep, this is exactly what we're looking for. It's they're converted barns, so very rustic, but like lots of big glass panels, that wonderful juxtaposition of rustic and modern. So beautiful, loads of natural lights. The venues themselves were fantastic. Obviously, we dealt with the venue for nearly 2 years at this point, and they were always really good at just keeping on top of everything. All of the boxes, everything that we'd done for the tables, like I turned up and I could, obviously Amy was in the bridal room, so Amy was just locked in doing what she needed to do.
Getting ready,
I was the one running around making sure everything was ready, and it's like everything basically was ready. The tables, I'd done like a drawing for how we wanted the centers to look. They absolutely nailed it. The florist was a little bit late, but like, okay, I was stressing about that a little bit, but they turned up anyway, so that's fine. They just set everything up absolutely perfectly, like exactly how we envisioned it all to be.
Our venue manager Lauren was absolutely incredible.
She was an absolute star. Like she was so chill. It was like, oh yeah, they're in the office. So I was like going behind the bar and into the office to grab bits and pieces out from there. It was just like as the groom, as like almost like a guest. But she was just like, yeah, we'll keep on top of it. And while I was running around making sure everything was ready, all of the groomsmen and the lads who were with us were all just keeping on top of everything and helping
the bridesmaids were kind of occasionally popping in and out just to make sure that things had been done. Like my mum was popping in and out, and it was just it went so well. Like everything went so smoothly, and like the photographer and videographer turned up, and like I said, they were both just incredible. They got our humour level straight away. Danny and Mark. So Mark's company, because I didn't mention earlier, is called White in Motion Wedding Videography. Danny is Daniel Ackley Photography. They were both incredible people to have around on the day. My makeup artist was Helena Bailey, and my hairstylist was the Hair Book wedding stylist in Northampton. They were both lovely, like wonderful people, turned up, did just everything, worked their asses off to help us. And they just, like, Danny and Mark just got the vibe of the room straight away. We have quite a low dark humour level, let's just say that. And Danny came in and literally just gelled with that vibe straight away. I think he himself has quite a dark humour, so it went really well. Like, we were just laughing the whole day.
He didn't have to be reserved.
No.
Like, obviously, as a wedding photographer, he can read the vibe and he will know what to do.
Yeah.
We just enabled him to be like, just be Danny,
Just be yourself. And Mark was so involved with that as well. And
Mark is a big roller coaster guy, so we were chatting about theme parks and stuff, which was great.
Everything just went to plan. Like, there was only one or two tiny hiccups, but even they weren't like
they were so minute it was almost
they didn't
irrelevant.
change anything.
People didn't notice.
Yeah,
basically.
And I was able to just sit and get ready and enjoy my wedding, which was something I was so worried about not being able to do because I'm so organised and I'm so. If I can't be the one doing it, I worry it's not going to get done. And yet everybody pulled together to just make sure that I did not have to worry.
Yeah.
It was so
everything
good.
just worked. So the thing that was weird for me in the morning was when people started arriving and I'm seeing people from all over my life and our lives and Amy's life, just all of them in the same place. You know, I had... Obviously, I said that Jules and Scott were here, but, you know, Ash was coming, Rachel was coming, Osley was coming, James Dowse was coming. Like, there's the What Culture lot. And then, like, in the evening, I had people from Motorsport Games coming, I had people from Frontier coming. And it's like, there's all of these people, there's, like, family and friends, there's uni, there's school for Amy, and there's everyone's here. And it's like, this is so surreal. Seeing all these people together, everyone is... really, really excited, like genuinely excited, which was really, really touching.
Yeah, because I was spending the whole time leading up to the wedding thinking no one's going to turn up, everyone's going to forget about it.
People are going to be really bored.
Like, yeah.
But then when it came to it, it was so odd. Like, I went and spoke to the registrars. The registrars were... You know, while we've obviously been bad-mouthing West Northamptonshire Council today, the registrars, however... That, again, similar to Danny and Mark, they latched onto the vibe and just ran with it. And
they were so good.
She was so funny.
Her name was Maura, and she explained it to me as Laura, but with an M instead of an L because people can never spell it. I cannot remember her surname, but the other woman was... What was her name? It was like...
I can't remember.
It was it Valerie or something like that?
I think it could have been Val or something.
Yeah, so they were lovely, lovely women. They were so friendly, so in touch with, like, the vibe. And she was so good to me because when she spoke to Rich first and then she came and spoke to me. And when she spoke to me, she was just down on a level that was like, look, we know you're nervous, we know this, but here's what we're going to do. It's really simple. This is all you've got to do. As long as you say I do in some positive respect, it doesn't have to be I do, it can be anything. As long as it's a positive response, we'll take it. But she was checking in with me the whole ceremony, just making sure that I was all good, you know, because the bride is typically the more emotional side for a lot of things. But obviously it was very much just she just got it, like, and she was so funny and so just chill.
Yeah, she was getting lots of laughs out of people.
Yeah, she was really great.
It's amazing how well people clicked with almost like our expectations. So but obviously we have it. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube at this point, this is probably when I'm going to start putting pictures in. And we had the very rustic barn and stuff. All we did was add this autumnal flavour to it. Because of the way the climate is now and everything's kind of shifted around a bit. All of the trees at this point is surrounded by trees.
They're all still green.
We're all completely bright green. So we had to bring autumn to it. So the lighting was always very warm. You got rustic brick and all that sort of stuff. So we had orange sashes down the inside chairs on the aisle. We had leaves scattered down the sides of the aisle as well. We have these 8, 10, 12 foot
3
trees.
meters. Yeah, so whatever
these
that
really
equates
big
to.
False trees with autumn leaves that looked amazing.
But they looked really...
Just flanking either side of the sort of the signing table at the top of the
ceremony space,
ceremony room. We had a table off to the side with photographs of our dearly departed who couldn't be there for various reasons because they're all not there for the same reason, but you know they all have.
Unfortunately, they're all dead. You know,
they're all dead. They were pit like. This is the vibe we can hit basically. So we had that there as well, and I remember, you know, my mum was very emotional seeing her mum on that shelf. And And her dad as well. And then, you know, some of my great aunt, some of Amy's relatives.
Yeah, my nan and granddad, my grandma and granddad, my cousin, my dad's brother, you know, just all people that unfortunately
the people who would have had an automatic invite had they been here.
Yeah.
So they were there too. But it was all nice and simple. Like the thing that we did with our wedding was we didn't go over the top on anything apart from maybe one thing a bit later on. But which isn't over the top. I think it was just a bit of a juxtaposition of what people were expecting.
Yeah.
Which you've all seen already.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but we had people just latched onto this again, as did Danny, as did Mark, as did the registrars. They just kind of understood that it's like there's no expectations of you lot today. We hope you don't have any expectations of us. Not that you really would coming to a wedding, I guess, but people felt comfortable. Like some of our family were really stressing about being in this situation of, you know, we are front and center this time. We're not just guests. It's us. We are the attraction today. And that was quite frightening. But people were feeling after the ceremony was done, were like, do you know what? I am real good. I'm super, super chill. And that shone through everything about the day.
Yeah.
People could just be comfortable and confident, you know. Obviously, like I said, you've got these people who you'd never think you'd ever meet, and they're mixing and mingling and chatting and getting on really well after the ceremony. Obviously, let me talk about the ceremony itself. Walking into the room, it got to like 1:30, and I was looking at my watch, and it's like, it's time. And they're like, the staff are beckoning people to come in because we were all outside because the weather was okay. And it was like, oh my God, it's happening now. I remember being stood at the front. The registrar was there. I was stood next to my brother, my best man, and it's just like, this is okay. And then at one point she said, okay, you need to turn and face me. And then A Great Big World started playing.
And I was
One Step Ahead by A Great Big World was
bearing in mind,
entrance music.
In the bridal room, I had a little one-way window, which was really small, that I could see out of. So I could see all the guests, I could see everything that was happening, but I could not see Rich from where I was. So...
But it's like just to put it into perspective, when I cut the music for the entrance and the exit for the ceremony, because I didn't want it to just be like fade in, fade out. It's like, I don't do that. I don't do this. I don't do half-assed, as hopefully people know. So I did these music cuts of One Step Ahead, which was great because One Step Ahead has this very sort of chunky progression of how much it sort of the instrumentation fleshes out. It's really easy to chop together to get it to build over the space of about a minute. And it gets to this point where it hits this crescendo as the sort of the last chorus kicks in. And it was like, I was sat in my office at the old house, bawling my eyes out just at the thought of this being when I see Amy in her dress. And
I was bawling my eyes out listening to it because I was like, oh, God.
And that was very much what happened. It was like the registrar would point behind me and say, yeah, there's like your sister as a bridesmaid. There's your friend as a bridesmaid. There's your sister-in-law as a bridesmaid. And it was like, and then there was this moment, I could feel the music swell. I was stood at the front looking at the wall, just going, I need to keep it together here because I'm just about to see Amy in her wedding dress that she's been teasing me about for the last 2 years.
And I was not keeping it together at all.
And then,
I was...
So yeah, if One Step Ahead... I might put it in a link in the description or something if you want to listen to it on Spotify. Is a cut down version of that was the entrance music. When that really swelled, I could sort of tell that it was like, this is time. And that was when she pointed behind me, and it was just seeing Amy and her dad walking down the aisle towards me, and it was like, this, oh my God, this is actually happening now. It's so, it was wonderful, but it was so weird because this was the first time I stood still that morning.
It was really surreal.
By the time we got to the venue, and it was just, it's happening. It's everyone else is there. They're waiting. That they sit there in anticipation. I'm here running around doing stuff, and it's like, oh, and now it's happening. Now you're getting married, and it's like, oh.
And I was, let me tell you, in the bridal room, I was like, oh God, I'm getting nervous. My heart would not stop. So what did I do? I ate snacks because that's what keeps me calm. So I'm like,
obviously I wasn't eating.
Laura's feeding me cocktail sausages. I'm eating like packets of mini cheddars. Like I was just like, I've got like, but it, we had plenty of time to talk and just chill and be with the photographer and the videographer, be with my mum, and we did the reveal with my bridesmaids of me fully in my dress and ready, and that was so lovely. And then we did the full reveal with my dad, with my mum and my sister in the room, and I was crying then. And then we were lining up to get ready to come out, and I was behind the curtain after the bridesmaid had gone. I was crapping my pants, not because I was nervous, but just because it was like, that was it. That was
time.
The moment.
Yeah.
And Rich will obviously attest to this, but when I get too emotional at something, I giggle because I can't keep my emotions down. Usually it's when I get angry or like slightly annoyed, but not angry, just like a bit miffed. I giggle because my emotions, I can't keep them in, and I just laugh. So I was stood behind the curtain with Dad going, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I need to stop," because I'm like, I can't. So then it turned into like laugh crying, and I was like, "Oh my God, I need to literally hold it together." And then Lauren, she went, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "No." Anyway, she like pulled the curtain across, and I'm there with this face that was just like, just like pure squeeze to try and like keep the tears in, keep the laughter under control. And I like came out, I saw a few friends, and I rounded the corner, and there's this picture which I'm sure Rich will put up of when like Danny took a picture of me and my dad.
I'm not looking,
walking around the corner just
point,
before Rich sees me, and the look on my face is just like, it's kind of like
you can
this
tell
weird,
she's happy, but you can tell she's crying.
It's this weird anticipation face, and I just didn't know what to do, and I was absolutely like, the tears were streaming because I was just like, I can't keep it in. Like, I'm so happy and excited to be here that I didn't. And then I looked at Rich and I was just like, God.
She's like, "Oh no, I'm marrying that
mess."
But there's so many went sort of so quickly when it, I said that the registrar was cracking jokes, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like it was like, you need to come around here and sit down and do the signing. And I started moving. She was like, "Not yet." Back. I was like, "Sorry." And yeah.
It just was so lovely.
When we signed the registry, we had Pointless by Lewis Capaldi playing Only Us from Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah.
And a song called Always by I Fight Dragons, which is one of my favourite bands. Mm-hmm. You couldn't really hear them because everyone was talking.
No, but then you never do. We're
going to do the signing here and do some pictures and things. So we did that. We exchanged the rings, we kissed and all that stuff. And then we it's quite awkward really, because the way that Dodford do confetti is they do it you can only do it inside because it's a hell of a lot easier to clean. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. It has to be biodiegradable, which is what we were going to get anyway. But that's also a fair sort of thing to have. Yeah. And then we walked back down the aisle to all the confetti, but we walked out to I'm Still Here from Treasure Planet, Jim's theme, which if you know Treasure Planet, you know the song. Obviously, it's right at the end of it. I cut into just the big crescendo towards the end.
You know that bit.
And it was like, whenever I tell people like that was our exit song, they'd be like, "Oh, that's so cool." Mm-hmm. Because I mean, again, if you've never seen Treasure Planet, go and watch Treasure Planet. It's
Laura.
Genuinely it genuinely probably is the most underrated Disney film. Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant.
So
I love it
good.
to pieces. And that song is amazing. It's written by John Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls. Mm-hmm. It's him.
Oh, he's from the Goo Goo Dolls. Well, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
I love the Goo Goo Dolls.
So, yeah, that's his song, and that was what we left to. But it was like we walked back to the bridal room. They had a member of staff with champagne and a beer on it for us. And we just kind of then just sort of turned around and we just walked back into the ceremony room. It wasn't like we just disappear off for a while. We just kind of went, yeah, we've done the bit. We walked down the aisle and they've thrown the confetti. We had like a minute or two. And then it was just like, okay, let's go socialise.
Yeah, we had a minute or two where we just stood next to each other and we were like, oh my God, we did it. Like,
there was a point we went into the bridal room and shut the door and just went, it was kind of like oh my God. We've done it. We've done it. Oh my God, you look amazing. Because obviously I kind of whispered it to you at the top of the aisle.
Yeah. And I was just like, do you like my dress? Because I love my dress.
Yeah. And then I just had confetti scalp the entire day.
And I had confetti boobs the entire day.
As you know, I am thinning on top. So all of the sort of the tiny bits, because all of our confetti was like dried petals. So all of the tiniest bits just got in my hair. It was like through my scalp the whole night.
Lovely.
It was like, oh, it's horrible. And then, we had all the pictures with our family, the sort of the standard posed ones, which
Yeah.
again we still had a lot of fun with. There's a picture of Amy and her bridesmaid slut dropping. There's a picture of me and my groomsmen, including my dad, my brother, and my sister's boyfriend slut dropping. We have got some pictures that we haven't got yet that are coming of the four of us trying to pick up Amy, which was an absolute complete
I punched
disaster.
Cameron in the face, which was awful, and I feel horrible about.
And then obviously Amy and I went off and did our pictures of just the two of us, which one of them, whichever one we pick, will be the thumbnail for the video on YouTube. We went around and did those. We had a lot of fun with those.
But again, also,
Danny understanding our humour, just knew how to sort of push our buttons and make us laugh.
Yeah.
Which meant that, the pictures look great.
But also my mum had gone through the trouble. Well, I'd say my mum, it was primarily my mum, but she also got Luke and my sister to help out at times as well. She had organised an entire bridal snack trolley for me because obviously I like to eat. We all know that. But I didn't want
snacks during the day anyway.
I didn't want anybody to go hungry because typically at a wedding, the one thing people say to you is make sure you eat, because you eat in breakfast in the morning, but then you don't eat till like 3-4 o'clock, and that was for a ceremony
unless
at 1:30. Yeah,
you just don't eat at all.
Unless you're me and you eat all day. And so I wanted to make sure that nobody went hungry, because Rich's sister was like, oh, the last wedding I went to, we barely ate anything. I was starving. I was like, trust me, that won't happen. So Mum had bought this trolley, like this little shopping.
It's like a pensioner's
It's like a pensioner's shopping bag trolley thing.
Yeah.
That off eBay, and she'd gone to pick it up. I think it was in like Rugby or Long Buckby, so not far. But she went and picked it up. Luke had been upstairs blowing up balloons that literally said like congratulations or bridal or whatever they said. They were like white wedding balloons. And the night before the wedding, they presented it to me as a gift at the restaurant, which was full of all the snacks that me and my mum had bought a few weeks before. So during the day, obviously we had this bridal snack trolley in the room with us while we were getting ready, and like Danny saw it and he was absolutely in hysterics at the fact that I had this full bridal snack trolley available, because he was like, that is like one of the best things I've ever seen. And I was like, oh yeah, we're food obsessed in this family. So he took me out individually and did a romantic photo shoot with the bridal snack trolley as well. Because he was like, you've got your priorities right, you'd rather marry the snack trolley. I was like, trust me, I would at sometimes. So we went out and did a full romantic photo shoot with the snack trolley and everything. It was so funny.
It's so stupid.
So
it
good,
was lovely.
though.
And because Danny didn't take the piss with like, normally you go to a wedding and the bride and the groom, they disappear for ages. Mm-hmm. We only maybe did about half an hour, 40 minutes photos.
And I mean, the rain threatened to start, which was why we kind of like, we didn't cut it short, but we got them done. Do you know what I mean?
So we were comfortably done with them, and then it started to drip, and it was like, okay, let's go inside. So then we got to just walk around and socialise. We got to have canapes.
Oh, the canapes.
Right.
Oh.
The food. Oh. The food. So so we only had, the venue comes with a caterer, which is fine. But these caterers were incredible. Jenkinson's. Good grief, the food was amazing. Mm-hmm. So the canapes we had like a barbecue meatball thing.
It was a barbecue spicy meatball. Then it was a warm cheese
twist.
Yeah. Oh.
And then
honey mustard sausages.
Honey mustard sausages are like crack cocaine.
Baked
and these
honey
were like
and mustard. Oh.
Little cocktail sausages that were just like glazed in honey and mustard.
They were so good.
And they were just amazing. We also had, because we had vegetarians and vegans there as well, they had things like a cauliflower, like a cauliflower balti on a little naan bread.
Cherry tomato, Provençale, things like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. Because we wanted to, because when it came to food, again, another thing with weddings, we weren't trying to go in thinking we would like to sort of break every norm of a wedding. But it's like there were lots of things that we did do more traditionally, and then a lot of things we didn't. So it's like when you go to a wedding, do you get quite fancy food? It's like you can do, but we just want a big slap up roast dinner. Because it basically pleases everyone, so we don't have to deal with any fanning around with people who are really difficult about food. But also, it's a big slap up roast dinner. Mm-hmm. You're not going to say no to a big slap up roast dinner.
You can't complain.
When we actually went into the breakfast room, we had, the starters were a prawn cocktail, which was basically there because my dad really likes prawn cocktails, and he said he wouldn't come if there weren't
a prawn cocktail.
There was a bruschetta, which was the vegetarian/vegan option.
Yeah.
And then when we went to a taster day about a year before, it was just after we got back from Florida, just before I started at Frontier, we went for like a taster day. And we tried tried the food generally. And there was a couple of things that we were potentially looking at. And they served these mango and brie parcels.
They were phyllo pastry stuffed with brie and mango chutney. And like a salsa, homemade like salsa. Oh, God.
And then served with little salady bits.
They were
We literally
good.
had it and went, this is going on our menu. So we put it on the menu. We basically both had the same thing, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we had that. And even our photographer, because they'd worked the venue before, when we saw that it was like, oh, we're going to feed you. Obviously, we made them snack bags with loads of stuff in it anyway. But it's like, we're going to give you a 3-course meal if you want one, because we're not arseholes. And he was like, mango. Oh my God, you're doing mango.
Oh, it was the videographer. Yeah.
Oh, is that Mark?
It was Mark. Mark was like, oh, their mango and brie parcels are legendary. I was like, yeah they are.
And they were incredible. For the main, we had honestly, it was like half a cow.
The beef.
It was massive.
Oh my God.
It was delicious with roast potatoes, and then you got like a broccoli on it and a massive Yorkshire pudding, and then they brought out
bowls of steamed vegetables.
For people, and that was absolutely amazing. The vegetarian option was a mushroom Wellington, which I heard was really, really good.
Oh, it's a vegetable Wellington.
Vegetable Wellington, not mushroom. But that was the only thing that was like the thing that was wrong that nobody really noticed, because we had requested, because by default it comes with like a Mediterranean tomato sauce. We'd requested to serve it with gravy, so it was more like a meat replacement in the same roast dinner, which we kind of had to keep going back and forth with them when they're sending us the menus. They're like, oh, this is what it's going to be, and it's like, it's not tomato, it's gravy, please. And it kind of turned up on the day and it was all tomato, but
nobody noticed.
Whatever. Nobody noticed. Everybody absolutely loved the food. And then for dessert, we made both the desserts vegan for the sake of super ease. But also, vegan desserts are absolutely fine. Most of the time, you don't even know.
Oh my God, let me tell you. So both of these desserts were absolutely incredible. We tried the
huge
desserts
as well, weren't they?
Oh my God, they were massive. We tried the desserts on the taste today, and I was not happy about really any of them.
But they were like brownies and blondies. They were a bit boring.
They were okay, but they were trying to be a bit too individual with the desserts on the day. They had like a deconstructed rhubarb crumble or something, or like there was a creme brulee. It wasn't good. So I was not really ecstatic about the desserts, but oh my God, let me tell you, they knocked it out of the park.
We were like, right, we'll do a chocolate one and we'll do a fruit one.
So we had an apple crumble with soya custard, and then we had a chocolate orange tart with vegan ice cream and like a caramelized like disc on top. Oh my God.
Brittle, wasn't it? Yeah.
I had both, because not like one of each, but I tried both because I had the chocolate orange tart, which was absolutely incredible. The vegan ice cream, I don't really eat ice cream off a spoon. The vegan ice cream
was really nice, wasn't it?
I ate all of
But it was like it was vanilla, but it wasn't that sort of artificial vanilla. You could tell it was
lovely.
Like proper vanilla.
And the apple crumble was just so good. Like, that soya custard did not taste like soya at all. It was just oh God, I could have eaten those desserts until the end of time. Like, they were so good.
Yeah, the food went down so well. It was all absolutely amazing. It was really odd being served first. Like Lisa, the catering manager, who was kind of like, the maitre d' basically of the wedding breakfast. It was like, pulling our chairs out and sitting us down and putting a napkin on our laps, and it's like, this is nice, but you really don't have to.
I'm not this posh.
We're not this kind of people. And we were going around. After we'd eaten, we were doing laps of the tables to just see how everyone was doing, get the chance to speak to people we maybe hadn't done at this point in time, and just check in on the food. And obviously, there was zero complaints from anybody. Everyone absolutely loved the food. Plates were emptied. The wine was being drunk. Like, everyone was really, really happy.
Yeah.
Speaking of the tables, we for our like wedding, what are they called again?
I don't know what you're on about.
Bottles of Coke. Favours.
Oh, favours.
We obviously went back and forth a lot on this as to what we would do for wedding favours, because people sometimes get like sweets, and it's like, I don't like sweets, so I'd be useless for sweets. Giving somebody something that's like a desserty thing, like right in front of them at the start, it's like, we do I eat this now? Because then I'm going to ruin my palate for like the savory food. And it gets to the end of the meal and they're like, I don't want to eat it because I've eaten enough now.
And having
like,
been a guest at a couple of weddings where they've done like food as favours, I can guarantee you most of it does not get eaten because people have the meal,
thing.
they're full, they don't want to eat the favour before, so they don't eat it after, and it just gets wasted.
Yeah. And then we thought, I said, what about like a branded notebook? Because this was my contribution.
This was Rich's thing.
I'd done a full house style, I'd done a monogram, everything matched, every single visual thing that we could do that was like printed on the website, on the invitations, all of it matched because that's just what I'm like. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. Everyone was really, really complimentary of all that sort of the graphic work I'd done for it. I was like, what about like a notebook or something with the monogram on it? And it's like, yeah, but they're not that cheap, and B, most people will probably leave them.
Yeah.
So
I said
we
to
kind
Rich,
of went down the route
genuinely, if you're planning a wedding, the one tip I can give you is if you don't want to do favours, scrap them. No one really cares. But also, if you're going to do a wedding favour, people do not want something that is representative of your wedding. They want something that they can take home and use or consume on the day.
Hence why I thought like a notebook or a pen was.
But
a
notebook was a bit more like, but it's got our wedding monogram on it, and people won't really want to use it because it's ours. They want to use it because it's theirs, so they won't really use a notebook with our wedding monogram. It's just.
So we kind of met in the middle. And Amy is a Coca-Cola obsessive. She literally bought a Christmas jumper today from Sainsbury's because it's Coca-Cola.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. We kind of met in the middle. And so for our wedding favours, while we had no corkage at the venue anyway, which meant we didn't have to pay extra to bring our own drinks, which we actually had to do for things like the drinks reception after the ceremony. We had to supply those drinks ourselves. So we brought in like orange juice, Prosecco. I brought in Estrella
Alcohol-free beer.
And Freedom, which is the free equivalent because Estrella Damm is my favourite beer. So I was like, well, everyone's going to be drinking my favourite beer because it's my wedding.
Yeah.
And so we had all of that come in. But we kind of doubled down on that. And so every place at the table had a 330ml glass bottle of Coke Zero with a rustic, like the craft is what it's called, the sort of brown label, because anything that we could do that was, apart from the signage that was like for the tables and for the like welcome signs that were white, everything else was like craft brown. And it had our monogram stamped on it on one side and the date on the other, and it was a Coke bottle with a label on it.
That was it.
Basically, here's a drink on us. A lot of people took home the labels, which is really, really nice, because I was like, I don't care. Like if they get thrown away, they get recycled because they're crafted twine.
It's
not like a plastic label. As long as we can make sure it's all kind of recyclable and not anything that's going to go landfilly, because it's just a waste of money and a waste of resources. Really, is kind of the approach we took. So those were our wedding favours.
And the best part is, if nobody drank them, I got to.
Amy's just going around like, have you not opened yours? Thank you very much.
Literally,
just taking people's Cokes away.
I'm not a big drinker. I used to be at uni. I went through a phase, we all do. We go out binge drinking with our uni mates all the time. But I got to the point in life where I was like, alcohol doesn't do me any favours. I also now, like I said at the start, have a second chronic condition, which means that really I need to avoid alcohol as much as possible. And so I was like, I'm not going to be drinking much on the wedding day because I don't really want to. It's not going to impact me. It's not going to benefit me. So I was like, well, the beauty is if I've got Coke Zero as the favours and nobody drinks it, then we could just collect them all up at the start of the reception, and I could just, because we had bottle openers on the tables for everybody to open them with, and I just went round and literally any unopened bottles I was like, yoink, having that. Like,
yeah.
So it was just, it's my wedding.
And obviously not everybody drank them, which is like, there was no expectation to, but I think people were quite happy at the fact that they had, while they were still going around with the beers and the Proseccos and bits and pieces like that for like they came to me so many times with a tray full of beer, and I'm like, please, I'm having the alcohol-free stuff until after the first dance, but like, I've had enough, thank you. But like, people obviously were happy. They basically got a free drink offers. The bar was open, so they could go get their own drinks if they wanted to. But that was what we did for our favours. Now you might be thinking, you two do a Doc 2 podcast. You both like all your nerd stuff. Where was it?
Where's the nerd stuff?
Where was all the nerd stuff? So that was where our table names came in, because we our very early draft, our tables were Harry Potter spells, but then we realised that
It's a bit too weighted.
it kind of leans into one thing too much, and also it's kind of hard to do. While the idea of having a spell and then the centerpiece of the table is like representative of the spell. If it's Lumos, there's like candles or lights or something.
It was too difficult.
And then you go, Aloha Mori, you might have keys, and then other things. It was like, what would we have now?
Yeah.
Sectum Semper, there's just blood everywhere. So we decided to kind of, again, go with that kind of idea, but we made our table names like nerd things that we like that
were
mean something
representative
to either myself or to Amy or to both of us, and they became our table names. So going kind of down the order, if I can remember them all by like order-ish, the first table that we named was Scaro.
Yeah.
Which obviously people listening to this podcast will know what that is. There was some artwork on the. I might put them up on screen. Actually, there was some artwork on the place name that showed a silhouette in our color scheme of what it was, or something representative of it. So, if people didn't know what it was, they might get a prompt or something as to what it might be. So we had Scaro.
Yeah.
The next table down was Aventura.
Yeah.
Which is a theme park.
Portaventura
in Spain, which is where I went a lot as a kid. Amy went to a lot as a kid, and Amy actually took me to Portaventura after
for our 21st birthday.
For our 21st birthday. I've not been back there since, and I'm dying to go. So we had Aventura. We had Lumos, which is obviously the Potter spell.
Yeah.
So we had like a Hogwarts silhouette on that. We had Atlantica.
Yeah, which is from The Little Mermaid. It's where Ariel and her family
Ariel's
and King
city,
Triton and everything
Yeah.
live like under the sea. So that was, but I didn't want it to be quite so on the nose, Little Mermaid.
We wanted stuff to be a little bit more like implicit. Like we didn't want to be like super. I didn't want to call a table Dalek. Yeah. Like Scaro's a little bit more tasteful. That was kind of it was tasteful. That's what we went for. We had Montressa, which is the planet that Jim Hawkins from Treasure Planet is on. And that's his home planet. So that was a link to Treasure Planet.
Yep.
We had Aperture, which is, while the artwork alluded to Portal, it was kind of a double entendre because Amy studied photography, I studied media production, I still work in like media production, so
it was very
be it real cameras
double
or fake
entendre,
cameras.
But also we both love the Portal games. And...
It was more weighted towards Portal. The artwork was Portal. We also had Odyssey, which is a ride at Portaventura, which Amy and I both love to pieces.
I mean, so when I was younger, I was obsessed with dolphins, like to a ridiculous degree. And when we went to Portaventura when I was younger, I was too small to go on any of the rides other than this one called Sea Odyssey, which was a 3D simulator ride. And you get in a submarine and there's a dolphin called Sammy, and this dolphin takes you on a tour. They've got a headset on, which means they can convert their clicks to English. And they take you on a tour of this underground, and then you bump into a big sea creature, and it's all about escaping this sea creature and stuff. I was obsessed with this ride. I literally went on it 4 or 5 times.
Me and my siblings loved it.
It was
so
incredible.
Much.
So we had a table named Odyssey because my car, I've now got a Fiat 500 in mint green, and she is called Sammy after this dolphin on the ride. So it
and
felt...
you have a little plush toy Sammy on the dashboard,
which is from you
years ago.
Yeah, so it just felt right to call this table Odyssey.
Yeah, and then we had October.
Yeah.
Which is a triple entendre. One is obviously the month we're getting married because it was October the 11th. It's also the month we got engaged because I proposed on October the 14th, 2021. But also when we lived in Newcastle, and funnily enough, all of the What Culture lot were sat on this table, we lived in October Courtyard.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a triple.
October is my favourite month of the year. It's spooky season.
Also, yeah, spooky season.
It's just the best. Like, so it was kind of like a quadruple entendre, so we named the table October.
Was that all the tables?
We had 8. So Lumos, Aventura, Scaro, Aperture, Montressa, October. What are we missing?
Atlantica?
Yeah, I can't remember. What are we missing?
Oh my god!
I'm gonna
open the Google
find
Doc
the Google document
with our table names on it because I'm trying to think of what they were all called. We should know this. We went through so many, so much changes. So Scaro, Aventura, Lumos,
Odyssey,
Atlantica,
October.
Montressa,
No, we have
Odyssey,
mentioned them
Aperture,
all.
October. We have got them, yeah.
Yeah.
So those were our tables, and honestly, we were like, "Oh, this will be the kind of conversation starter." So if we sat people on a table who maybe don't know each other, which obviously we ended up having to do, maybe they can talk about how they know the bride and groom, etc., etc., etc. And then, what does this table name mean? When Amy was getting ready in the morning, I had the staff who was setting up the tables. They were there trying to work out were they all, because they weren't all linked into a singular theme, apart from it was stuff that we liked. But I did explain them all, and they were going, I recognised Montressa, but I couldn't work out what it was from. And then one of my friends was like, is Odyssey a ride? Yes, it is. Oh my God, I was right. Everyone was kind of working out
We had a lot of people as we went round, because we went round after the meal and spoke to each individual table to make sure that we didn't miss anybody. And everyone was like, oh, what is the table named after? Like, why did you come up with that? Like, what does this mean?
I think the only table that knew exactly what it was Scaro. And that's because it was the bridesmaids and my siblings.
And they all knew what Doctor Who is.
Well, that's Daleks. Yeah, they don't know what Doctor Who is. So yeah. So we did the lap, and I was getting more and more nervous because then we did the speeches, because we did the speeches after the food, because we're not monsters.
Because we're not going to make you sit hungry.
Yeah, exactly, through all of our rubbish. So we had quite a few speeches, a bit out of the ordinary. Amy's dad, obviously my dad was the MC, so he was the guy who introduced us when we first came into the breakfast room. He was also the one who started the speeches to say, hello everybody, welcome, blah, 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 blah. We're now going to go to the father of the bride, which was Martin, Amy's dad. So he did his speech. It was really, really, really sweet. It
was
brought
really
a funny
good.
hat.
And do you know what? I was kind of, Dad's speech, I was like a bit nervous because he has a habit of being the typical embarrassing dad telling bad dad jokes, but he did really well at his speech. It was really lovely and it hit all the right notes. And he obviously got a dad joke or two in there, but they were really the kind that you can laugh and groan at the same time. They were good.
Yeah. Then Amy's mum did a speech.
Yeah, my mum
did
a speech.
Traditionally, the bride's mother doesn't speak. But she did a speech as well. I mean, your maid of honor, your sister, didn't do a speech.
No,
so your
but
mum
that's
kind
because
of did
she
that
wasn't
one in place.
She wasn't really wanting to talk, which is fine.
Which is fine. Again, we weren't going to pressure people into doing that. But your mum did a really, really nice, really, really lovely speech. And I finally got a blipper for her gates.
Yeah.
For very quick context, my mother-in-law runs a dog sitting business, and she's got electric gates to stop the dogs getting out. And Amy and Laura in their cars have all got little controllers they call blippers to open the gates. I have to get out of my car and punch a code in to open the gates.
Because my mum and him have a running joke about son-in-law points and how Rich hadn't earned enough son-in-law points yet to be able to get a blipper.
But then during her speech, one of our friends from the Scaro table stood up with a really, really frivolous pillow with a blipper on it and presented it to me.
And this blipper is tiny. It's like a few
just a little remote control with two buttons on it.
But this pillow was massive, so it was presented on this really big cushion.
Everybody who was in on it was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. And 99% of everyone else in the room was like, I have no idea what this is.
But it was so funny for us and it was so worth the joke,
So now I've finally made it.
He's finally got enough son-in-law points for a blipper.
My just kind of hopping over, because then it would have been me. We basically went from one end of the table to the other, which wasn't deliberate. It just kind of worked out that way. My brother did his best man speech, which was really lovely. It was really, really lovely. Both myself and my brother got a mention of my nan, my mum's mum, who I mentioned earlier, who her picture was on the table, and it's quite emotional seeing her there. The picture that was on the table, I've literally got on my desk right now. She's still here. She's always here. She was very, very important to me and to all my family and everybody that she knew. Really, we wouldn't be in this house if it wasn't for her.
No.
She died almost 10 years ago now.
But she died literally about 3 months after we started seeing each other.
3 months after we got together. And I mentioned in my speech that I really wish Amy had met her, because I said we were only together a few months when she died. So I always, while it was a bit like, would I really take this girl I've been dating for 2-3 months to go visit my nan? This is important for me. I only the best get to meet my nan. But obviously in hindsight, I wish that you had. But okay. I gave her a mention and said, I'm sure she's up there having a whale of a time. which she would have been. Oh my God, you would if my nan were still here, she would be 95, and she'd have been spinning on her head on the dance floor.
Oh,
she
no.
was so excited about our wedding. Good grief. But I got a mention in, my brother got a mention in, and he the reason he went to Tesco that morning was because he went to buy a pack of Milky Ways, because my nan used to always keep like chocolate, predominantly Milky Ways, in her bag. So whenever they go out to like the football or something, she'd always be like snaffling my siblings' Milky Ways. So my brother kind of alluded to her and then passed me over a couple of Milky Ways, and it was like, no, they
That was
passed
really
them over
sweet.
my mum, and me and my mum were just like, oh dear. And it was a really, really lovely speech. He got some cracking jokes in.
He did.
And then my dad ended on a speech as well, because my dad, ever the showman, did a speech with some old pictures and some jokes. He did the telegrams from people who couldn't be there, because unfortunately a lot of my more like not immediate, but like my family,
Your extended
weren't.
family.
My extended family couldn't come for a multitude of reasons. Some of them genuine, some of them not. But we won't go into that. But he did, the talking about. The messages of who wasn't there, and
Made a cracking joke about my boobs.
Yeah, his opening line was about how they're an absolutely great pair, and then he paused for just about long enough for people to go, he's not actually talking about his daughter-in-law's tits, is he? No, and then
He went, that you two make,
And it was like, obviously all of us on the top table, because our families, the Hudsons and the Parsons, get on so well. We are on the same level of these things, but sometimes it was like pushing that humour bar to see how far we can push it. And people were in hysterics once they'd realised that he was actually alluding. He was definitely alluding to your chest, but also kind of pulled it back.
And that's fine.
And it was just the amount of time he left in that line between saying it and putting the punchline in was just enough to make people doubt, like, oh my God, is he actually saying what? And that was really lovely. And he handed over a skateboard and an orange gilet, which is the startings of a Marty McFly costume, which we'll get to. As for me, my speech was hopefully very, very good.
I cried a lot, let me tell you.
I definitely threw in a lot of jokes at Amy's expense.
That's fine.
I threw in jokes at my expense, because that is, as you probably know from listening through to this podcast and sort of getting to know us, and the fact that you guys wanted to hear about this day and everything that's been going on, it kind of means a lot, really, that you guys are invested in not only what we have to say about Doctor Who, but also just kind of us as content creators, as a couple. So I alluded to this, the jokes about things, how I lowered the humour bar with my new family, and the jokes I've gotten past my mother-in-law would make your eyes bleed. I joked about marrying the wrong sister,
which was very funny.
I've got my sister-in-law's fit.
My
what
sister
can I
is,
say?
yeah, she's fit. I can't deny that.
And it's been a running joke for the last 10 years. Not so much that like, I'm only with Amy to get to her, but I will very much be like, you're really hot. And we just kind of lean into that.
It's funny. It's fine.
It's funny. It definitely made people kind of double take. Like, did he just really?
But it was it went down so well. The joke was so funny.
It went down so well. And then I did allude to Doctor Who very briefly in my speech. Basically, I'm not obviously going to go through the whole thing, but when I wrapped it up, the first thing I come up with for my speech was how I was going to end it. And basically, I said that somebody in my position on a day like today would say that they're excited to spend the rest of their lives together, but not me, because the rest of our lives isn't long enough. And I went through loads of stupid things, like, it'll be in, how many years' time would it be? I had it written down.
Yeah, you did.
It's like 780 years' time when Busted released their 7th album. People found that really funny. I think they thought because it was like, it's because they release albums slowly. It's like, no, because that's the year 3000 when they released their 7th album, etc. I said, it would be in 140 years' time when they resurrect David Tennant again
to play
for the 200th anniversary of Doctor Who. It'll be in 30,000 years' time when they finally cancel The Simpsons. It will be in 1,000,000 years' time when I finally admitted I should shave my head because it's thinning a bit too much. I said, it'll be in... And eventually I ended it saying that it'll be in 100 trillion years' time when the universe has ceased to be. Nothing exists. Time, space and matter have simply finished. Maybe then in 100 trillion years that'll be enough time at Amy's side.
And I was blubbing like a bloody baby.
That's how I finished my speech. And I said that completely from the heart. Because while Amy and I do very much get off of the fact that we just rip the piss out of each other constantly.
You know.
Yeah. There are obviously, we are a very, very in love couple, but it doesn't bubble to the surface, because it just bubbles to the surface in its own way, which is we just tear each other apart.
Yeah,
which
but
is
also,
kind of how I was brought up. If you sit with me and my family, we tear the living daylights out of each other.
5 minutes into a meal, you will have no skin left if you're not hard wearing. Like, it's,
yeah, exactly.
You know, but we do love each other, you know, and I think this is one of the things that people kind of like, they don't see with us, is they see the banter, they see the humour, and they see a level where we get on. Because when we're in public, we're not particularly PDA. We're not heavily.
But it's not like we don't.
No. But I just mean
we're not like all over each other.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, we're not those couples that stand snogging in the corner because they can. We're just a happy together couple. But when we're at home, obviously, although we still do rip the crap out of each other, we're obviously not. We do love each other. We do show each other affection. We do make sure that the other one knows that we love them. And it's that having that actually presented to everybody was...
It kind of it really makes that day hit home.
Yeah.
Just how special it is. That it's almost like you guys get to witness us actually being nice to each other for once.
Yeah.
So, and you know, people were in bits after my speech. You know, I had so many people say your speech was absolutely incredible. And I'm really happy with it, because I got some really good laughs in. I got a few like ooh moments in from people, and just
it was good. It literally couldn't have been.
And that was that. Like, okay, I feel comfortable now. I've eaten now. I didn't eat everything. Like, I didn't finish each plate. I finished the parcels because they were absolutely.
Whereas
delicious.
I had extra of everybody else's.
Yeah, extra of everything. I was still I was able to eat more because we'd had the ceremony, that was done, and all that sort of stuff. And then in the evening, at this point in time, I mentioned it in my speech when I was thanking everybody. Like, thank you to Dodford, thank you to Jenkinson's, thank you to Danny and Mark, thank you to all the people who helped out with Amy's stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. And I said, thank you to this guy Tom, who's turned up with a thing. And if you don't know what it is, or if you do know what it is, don't tell someone who doesn't know what it is. So then when we'd finished milling around, we'd done the speeches and everything, it was like, okay, now we can just sort of relax until 8 o'clock, which is when the reception guests will have arrived by, ready for the cake cutting and the first dance. Parked outside was a fully kitted out time machine DeLorean. This was the
spectacle.
Big juxtaposition of everything was very tasteful, but it was still very us. Then there was just a DeLorean parked outside. It was just
a big nerd item.
The people who were turning up were obviously seeing it first.
Yeah.
But then everybody kind of milled outside. Everyone kind of followed us out. And then we were seeing people walk around the corner and see this DeLorean parked there and just going, oh my, wow.
And do you know what?
That is so cool.
I'd also like to give a shout out to the weather, because this was the week in October where it was
4 or 5 days before, wasn't it?
It was really warm. It was like 20 odd degrees, and we were like, oh my God, it's going to be lovely. And then the day of the wedding, it was supposed to piss it down, and we were so gutted. We were like, it can't, like, please, God, if there is a God, just do not rain all day. There was obviously contingencies, like it was no dramas, but...
We bought brollies and stuff.
Yeah, like the rain... it was like it was listening to us, and it basically, I like to think that the weather had seen all the crap we'd gone through this year and gone, do you know what, I'm just going to hold off long enough, because it only rained. It pissed it down at 7 o'clock in the morning, which unfortunately my hairdresser got caught in, but we dried her off, we gave her some towels, we warmed her up, everything was okay. And then it did not rain again until 4 o'clock, which was literally the moment we sat down for the wedding breakfast, and then it pissed it down for 3 hours, and then as soon as it hit 7, when we had to go outside and see the DeLorean, it stopped raining. I was literally... And
then it didn't rain for the rest of the day.
And it didn't rain. I was ecstatic with the weather, because
amazing.
It just happened to be exactly right. So yeah. Yeah,
so we all went back outside. People were in and out over the course of the rest of the night. We obviously had... like Tom was really happy with people to go and sit in the DeLorean, which he did... such an immense job of making that thing look absolutely perfect,
was so
down to
good.
Like finding the exact same alarm clock that
Yeah.
Marty uses when they, at the end of Back to the Future 1, like the exact same one. It's like, this is crazy amount of detail. He had obviously the date, October 11th, 2023 on the dashboard. So there's a picture of us pointing at that. I bought some cheap sunglasses, some cheap aviators, because I was like, if we're having this DeLorean there, I want our wedding picture to be us recreating the poster.
Yeah.
And that's obviously, people have already seen that because I've already posted it everywhere, but it's on screen now if you're watching on YouTube. That is like our wedding picture. And that's with the skateboard and the gilet I got from my mum and dad, just for that day. We got one of me in my suit as well, which I'm keen to see as well. But that was like our wedding photo. But people were so amazed.
And
that there was
Danny
just
is
this,
a huge Back to the Future fan as
Danny's a
well.
huge Back
So
to the
when
Future
he
fan.
knew that we had a DeLorean turning up, he was so excited. And when he saw it, he was like, "Oh my god, this is so sick!" And he went round setting up all his artificial lighting so that he could do a hero shot with us in the DeLorean.
we did a proper it
was
that shot
so
that
good.
you've seen that was the shot.
The
that
shot
he
from the
wanted.
photographer, yeah.
We did some before where it was just him, but then he was like, "I'm going to set my lighting up. We're going to do this properly." Which was amazing. But that shot happened after the first dance. So when people arrived,
No, it was
see so
before
many
the first dance.
No, we did it after.
Oh, the photo, you mean? Oh, sorry.
The proper one we did after the first dance. We did some stuff before without his lighting, and so it got to 8 o'clock. We went back inside because obviously all the evening guests had arrived, seeing people we hadn't seen in donkeys.
Yeah.
And then like new friends from Frontier for me who made the effort to come across and be there for the
people
evening, which was
from my
amazing.
job and just people from my
People
old
from
job.
some of our friends came
job.
from Scotland for just the evening, which is amazing of them. Our cake topper. So we had again another thing against tradition. We didn't have a fruit cake. Who wants fruit cake? We had a Victoria sponge with a caramel drip.
Yeah.
Which looked amazing.
Vanilla buttercream around the edge and some autumn leaf like sugar work on
Sugar
top.
leafy things. Yeah. So we had that as our wedding cake. So just one tier. And we had a decked out Stitch and Angel from Lilo and Stitch as the cake topper.
Like what they call plasticine, but not plasticine.
They were like, they were fired models.
Yeah.
They were
like
proper
little
stuff.
wedding ones with a little top hat and a little veil and all
veil.
sorts of stuff.
So we cut the cake, but also rather than having a massive cake, Amy baked 160 cookies.
Yeah, I did.
4 different flavors. There was chocolate chip, which were vegan. There were double chocolate chip, which were vegan, and then it was salted caramel and pecan.
Yeah.
And
White chocolate and raspberry. And they went down.
And they were incredible.
Oh.
Again, it was like with the food, it was like, let's just do stuff people are going to like. Nobody wants fruit cake.
No.
Not everyone will probably want cake, but cookies are going to disappear.
And the cake was beautiful, don't you? Like, but
the cake was amazing.
But only half of it ended up getting eaten because the cookies were there. And I baked 160 because we only altogether had like 90 something guests. But I was like, if there's like, that plus like a half again, then everybody can have multiple. And there were people like taking stacks of them home. Like it was literally like people coming in with napkins, like putting them in a bag. And I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
We brought home one solemn cookie left in the basket.
And that was because it just ended up in a basket.
And we were like, we're going to throw that away.
Yeah.
It's pretty there for
but
3
then
days.
Jenkinson's, for the evening, there were loads of different options we could have done, but it was like, we could just have a buffet. So it was like sandwiches, sausage rolls, more honey and mustard sausages,
and those
obviously
of you,
with cookies.
Those of you listening know I love a buffet.
Wedges and stuff. But I didn't eat anything in the evening. I was quite happy. I kind of wish I did, just because the honey mustard sausages were there. But people said the food was brilliant in the evening as well, which was not a surprise. So we cut the cake. Amy fed me a cookie, and then we did our first dance, which has been our first dance number for as long as we have been
probably
together.
Since the first year of our relationship. I mean,
when we, you talk about that, not so much like, oh yeah, we're so in love, we're going to get married one day. It was just the sort of, we kind of always found it interesting hypothesizing what our wedding would be, but this was always, apart from us being the couple, this was always the song, and it's Already Home by A Great Big World, the same band who did the number that Amy walked into, and that's been our first dance forever. And finally hearing that music start, being stood in the middle of the dance floor with everyone stood around us watching, it was so it was obviously very tranquil, but it was also kind of strange to think that we're finally here.
Yeah, and
Like, this is it.
I was anticipating our first dance, because you know what first dances are like. Everybody stands, everybody watches you. It can be quite awkward.
You're going to feel really awkward.
But
yeah.
and I didn't want to feel that awkwardness, but we did, like, genuinely, in that moment, I did not care that anybody else was in that room apart from the two of us. And it was like we were just so invested in that song and what it meant to us and how long it had been a part of our relationship, because every time it would come on in the car, we would be like singing to it, like emotional about it. Yeah.
Bear in mind, in 2 months' time, Amy and I will have been together for 10 years.
Yeah, we've been together since 2014.
It's been a long time coming.
So it was definitely, it was like 9 years of knowing this was going to be our first dance, and finally getting to have that happen with everybody that we loved just there to watch. And there were quite a few people in that room that got quite emotional, because seeing the way that we got so into the song in like a completely different
for the last
setting.
sort of half of it, we were just singing it.
Yeah, we were just singing it to each other, just enjoying it, just like having that vibe. And obviously we did get it all videoed by the videographer, but we've got loads of people videoed it for us while it was happening, and so we've got multiple videos of it. But it was just so, like, I don't even really remember anybody else being there at that point. And Danny was wandering around taking photos, and like the flash was going off, but it didn't even occur to me that that's what was happening. It was just me and Rich, and it was just to be able to sing it to each other and just enjoy that moment. And it was not awkward in the slightest, and I was so
Thank
pleased.
God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And then
we had one request for the song following our first dance, which was obviously "Crash the Wedding" by Busted, which went down very, very well. Everybody clambered onto the dance floor and just went at it. And then Amy and I, massive theatre people, we met at Musical Theatre Society. We had a few show tunes on the playlist, and the DJ just knocked it out of the park by following Crash the Wedding with "You Can't Stop the Beat" from Hairspray.
And it was so good. The vibe.
The temperature in that room
was
skyrocketed
boiling.
because we were throwing shapes
Oh my God.
and having an amazing time.
And some of the photos that Danny got from that, like, just those few songs
There's
alone.
one photo, I'm going to put it on screen. There's one photo where there's just Jules like grinning into the camera, and it just kills me every time I see it. It's so good.
It was so
but you can
good.
see us all just having such an amazing time.
Mm-hmm.
The vibe just stuck through the whole day. There were people who were talking to Amy and saying, we could tell that everything you did was for you, not for everybody else. But then we still did it with the knowledge that there are other people experiencing today with us, and we want to make sure everybody has a good day, not just us.
But it wasn't that we did it for them. It was just like everything that was special to us. Yeah.
But we made it. We still, obviously, you can tell it was curated by us.
Mm-hmm.
And then, people started some people started to leave over the course of the night. We were kind of chilling out in other rooms, and the dance floor reoccupied. There's a point when me and my friend from uni, from musical theatre, who I hadn't seen in a few years, we were both stood at the bar, and Night to Remember from High School Musical 3 came on. And it was just like, sorry everybody around us, we're going to go dance.
And I was like, where's Rich? Where's Rich?
So, and then we started congering around the room when Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News came on. And then we ended with, we had 2 songs to start the night, and we specified 2 songs to end the night. The penultimate was The Book of Love by Peter Gabriel, which, if you know Scrubs, is the song that plays as JD watches his potential future being projected onto the Goodbye JD banner in front of Sacred Heart. Which is funny because we both love that song, but one of our friends went to a wedding, and I think it was their first dance or something, and she was just in bits. And as soon as the song came on, I just kind of looked at her, and she was already going. It was like, sorry. And then we wrapped up the night with The Heart Never Lies by McFly,
which was so good because it's such a power tune, and it's
McFly's power ballad.
It was just such a good song to end on, because it's just summarized everything that we kind of felt throughout the day and just leading up to it,
and the last 10 years.
And
so
it was just an immense way to end the night.
And that was it. The day was long. I don't look at it and think that it went by quickly. I think it was paced perfectly.
It was,
Admittedly, I had a lot more in the morning when we got to the venue, but I don't look at it and go, God, I blinked and it was over. Like,
No.
I remember every single moment of that day.
I mean, it does
find
go
myself
quickly.
Obviously going through the picture. It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I find myself going through the pictures so frequently.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
this is the first time we've had the chance to talk about it to somebody with this kind of depth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been over it with a few people as to like what happened.
but you can't. You haven't got time,
I'll give you
Yeah.
the quick notes on it. But getting to go through it in this kind of detail,
Yeah.
you all listening today, you wonderful people who continue to put up with us and our sporadicness
Yeah.
of Escaping Kasterborous, you've had the chance to actually hear from
Kind of
our
start to
mouths
finish.
exactly
Yeah.
how the day went.
And I mean, it does go quickly.
The stories of
because-
things that not everybody knows.
No,
you know.
and you have to go around and talk to everybody, and there is a lot of expectation on the bride and groom to kind of get around everybody. And we only had 100 guests maximum, and there were some people that I spoke to very, very quickly once and then couldn't speak to again because I wanted to enjoy the evening. I wanted to dance.
Yeah.
I wanted to literally enjoy my own wedding. I didn't want to spend it feeling like I had to be a socialite. And there was a few times when I spoke to my groups of friends that I'm really close with, a few times I spoke to people that I invited like from work and things like that, but it all just was perfectly, like you said, it was perfectly spaced, it was perfectly paced. It didn't feel like I was rushing around at any point, but it also did in a way, like when you're the bride and groom at a wedding, you definitely have to have this air of expectation that the wedding is almost not for you. It kind of is for your guests. And that's what we had put into it, but we also wanted it to be our day. So we had that perfect balance between it being our time and everybody else's time. So yeah, it honestly, it could not have gone any better. Like the day was perfect from start to finish. And, we got another full English cut, like hotel breakfast the morning after.
I ate the
who's
morning after.
complaining?
It was amazing.
So yeah, it was phenomenal.
As Amy said, it was perfect in quite literally every single way.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single thing I'd have changed. Yes, there were people who were not there who I'd have liked to have been there, be it because they had excuses or they were dead, either or really.
Sorry, pal.
But at no point did I feel like it was lacking because there was somebody who wasn't there or because something didn't happen.
Yeah.
Everything went just perfectly, and there's been there were no dramas.
No.
There were no issues. You read horror stories about weddings, literally none of it.
None of it.
And I mean, literally nothing went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, and I mean everybody, had an amazing time. So much so that we've got, in the next 18 months, Amy and I have got 4 weddings to go to.
Yeah, we've got my sister's in March, and then we've got a friend's in August, a friend's in October, and then one of my bridesmaids in the following April. So...
And they were all at this wedding, and very smugly on our part, we've kind of set the bar.
I've had many people message me, be like, what did you do for this? Like, how did you do this? Like, what about that? And I'm just like, you can ask me anything, darling. No, I mean, that sounds really snobby, but like...
didn't go in with the idea that we needed to make the best wedding that anybody's ever been to.
No, because we couldn't. Do you know what I mean? It was just...
It just turned out to be that kind of day because, like I said, everybody understood the assignment, which was turn up,
have fun.
a good time.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
And
There's no expectations on you, no expectations on us. There's nothing awkward that could go wrong. We kept things simple for a reason, both in terms of food, both in terms of logistics, both in terms of decoration and everything like that. We kept things simple so things didn't have to, there were less things to go wrong and nothing went wrong.
And I think...
And at the end of the day...
No, it's okay.
But actually, no, you go. I was gonna wrap up.
I was going to say,
Get your point in.
I think the vibe... The idea that we did it for us and not anybody else just meant that everybody else could come in and have that good time, because we weren't trying to set any expectations. We weren't going in there going, oh my God, you guys are going to have the best time ever at our wedding. Like, it's going to be so good. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. We just did everything because we wanted to, and we wanted to have a good time, or we wanted to enjoy it, but we wanted everybody else to just be comfortable, enjoy the day and have a nice time. And the everybody since the wedding, like in the days following and on the day, and just they were all just like saying, this has been incredible, like thank you so much for inviting me, we're really thrilled to be here, but we're so glad that it's gone exactly as planned for you both. And the days following, it wasn't, wasn't even really a come down. It was just a nice, gentle relaxation.
We
of thinking,
we just stayed happy.
we're done. Like that's it. Yeah.
Because it was emotional in places where you got kind of heated emotion, not like negatively, positively, obviously, but otherwise it was like a super chill day. There wasn't so much a come down, because even though it was the best day of our lives, hands down, it didn't kind of go so far that you came crashing down afterwards. We got back to the hotel. And it was like, yeah, that was that.
Sleep.
That was that. Yeah, pretty. Yeah, sleep. God, it was absolutely knackering. So, Sophie Appleyard put a question on Twitter. There were some more questions, but I feel like we've kind of answered.
We're
them
at
just
2 hours and
anyway.
15 minutes now. We need
exactly.
to
We've been here for over 2 hours. I want to make a roast
I'm
dinner.
hungry.
Sophie asks, was your wedding everything you dreamed of? And the simple answer to that is obviously yes. And that's because I got to marry my best friend.
Oh, thanks.
Who obviously I spend a lot of time with. Some of that time is spent recording, and you guys get to hear it. So that is where we've been. That's what we've been doing, and hopefully this gives you, I say hopefully, it gives you an insight into our lives for the past 10, 11 months.
I mean, and the thing is, we're at this point where the wedding happened obviously mid-October, and you guys are probably thinking, well, hang on a minute, it's like mid-November now, what the hell, like, you know. And we've had a lot of stuff. We've unfortunately still got some things going on. Nothing's perfect, you know. The new house has been an issue in some respect. It's been fine otherwise, but, you know, we've just had little bits here and there that crop up, and it's not been the best, it's not been the worst, it's just been things that we have to deal with before we can get our lives
hitting the ground running with life. After the wedding just kind of got stopped short on the first day.
It was unfortunately not really a breathing space, so we're getting
back on top of it, but today was the chance to go, okay, we can actually do this today. Hence why it's been lovely to get to reenact, like, while we've had that horribly negative opening, the first hour of this was just us whinging and bitching, but we needed to get it off our chests, which is nice to kind of do, but then also getting to relive our wedding day, which is still, it's not surreal that it happened. I know for a fact it happened, but it's just it's obviously it would be a core memory, but it's not. I think some people might take a bit of time for it to kind of sink in as a core memory. For me, it's right there, straight away. Here we are. So that has been our updates, our life update as to where we are, and normal programming will be resumed from next time on. Soon, whenever that's going to be. We need to look at the calendar, because obviously we're winding up to Christmas now as well, and it's like, oh God, now we need to worry about that.
Look, we're aiming for the next year. We're hoping beyond hope.
We'll probably try and get something out before Christmas if we can. Obviously, this coming Saturday is the Star Beast, and the 60th anniversary specials are coming, so I'm obviously going to be doing YouTube videos for that. Some of them turning around pretty quickly. The first episode I've got to do like that night, which is going to be
interesting.
But yeah, I'll do that. Then I'll worry about that. Future Rich can worry about that. So we might be able to get some Torrent Stratagem in before Christmas. We'll have to see how things go if we get that window. No guarantees, especially since we've got, I said, the 3 specials from next week onwards, and then obviously the Christmas special as well.
And also just Christmas in general, we're busy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's great. We're seeing family.
Unfortunately, it's at that point where we are going to have to admit with the podcast that we do want to go into the new year being like a bit more on
basically
top of
what
it.
we wanted to do
we
last year.
We want to try and do it like we did last year. Obviously, we all know life can be a bitch. So we have every intention, as we did last year, to be better, and we don't have to be quite so involved with everything we had going on this year because we haven't got as much coming up. So we're hoping next year will be a lot easier and a lot better.
Yeah. And we actually have the excuse to make time for it because we don't have anything coming up.
Well, we have my sister's wedding
and
needs to be a priority.
Eventually a honeymoon, but like otherwise
yeah.
we can try and hit the ground running with it. And if you're wanting to know exactly when stuff is happening with the podcast, please follow us on Twitter at Kasterpod. That's where it all happens.
No, Rich, not Twitter. It's X.
I am deliberately not calling it X, and I've deliberately not said X
Please
because
follow
it's
us
Twitter.
on X, formerly known as Twitter.
It's Twitter.
It is Twitter.
So everything is on there. Don't come knocking on Instagram like, where's podcast? It's like it's on Twitter. If I've not said anything on at Kasterpod at Twitter, it means it's not there yet. It's not coming. Wait until I say hello, we're about to record, send us your questions, then you know it's coming. Okay? I know that you guys don't hound us, just need to get that out there. We do appreciate all of your patience, especially over these last almost like
7 months,
4 or 5 months,
something like that
of this. But like I said, we told you where we were. I did preface it saying, we're going to be away for a while. And now you know why. But I hope you've enjoyed this last 2.5 hours. I'm going to make a big slap at roast dinner now because I'm starving. As soon as I mentioned it, my stomach went, yep, and just started rumbling. So I'm going to go do that. Amy.
Yeah.
Where can they find you on the old socials?
You can find me at Ames_Elizabeth. Ames is AIMS.
Not Ames_Hudson.
No, because
Shame.
my name on Instagram is now Amy Elizabeth Hudson, but my handle is still Ames_Elizabeth.
Yeah, there's no point changing that. I'm still pick up change toe on everything, basically. So please do, and have a look on the YouTube. If you're on the YouTube, I released a new video yesterday. And then if you're excited for the 60th, which I'm sure you are, stay tuned as well on there. Pick up change toe on YouTube. Now they've finally introduced usernames properly, which is good. But yeah, the 60th specials are going to get the standard review treatment from me starting this next weekend. Or this coming weekend. Actually, it'll be tomorrow when this comes out. It'll be tomorrow to start East. Because we're recording this on Sunday. I'll release this on Friday. So
everybody look out for that.
I'll see you on YouTube in like a day.
Hey.
The people who are subscribed to me are like, oh my God, there's so much activity all of a sudden. What's going on? But yeah, thank you all so much for listening with us. I hope you've enjoyed our ramble about life and about how special our day was, and really glad that we got to share it with you in some way, shape or form.
And thank you for bearing with us.
As always.
We do always appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for spending some time with us again. Enjoy the 60th specials. Take care of yourselves, all of you. We'll see you at some point. Stay tuned at Kasterpod on Twitter as to when we do Sontaran Stratagem. Might be next year at this point.
And it will be a double bill, don't forget. Sontaran Stratagem around the Poison Sky.
Watch both parts first. Until then, take care, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Why
do we wave?
We're waving at each other. Goodbye, Amy.
Goodbye, Richard.